Forgot to add myself to the stream. Welcome. I am Dr. Barry. I'm a licensed psychologist, and here I share the psychological aspects of crime. And today we are going to be taking a look at the verdict in the Natalie Cochran case. Natalie Cochran, she was a pharmacist. She has a doctorate to be able to be a pharmacist, and her husband died with an insulin level of a blood glucose of 21, which is dangerously low. And it came out during the trial that she waited over 6 hours to get him medical help. And she denied being a part of it at all. This case also added in a Ponzi scheme where she was running a business. She was a 51% stakeholder in the business, and I think her husband, he owned 49%. And the prosecution's theory is that her husband, Michael, was not aware that they were not winning the contracts that they were bidding on, but they were receiving a lot of capital. And he was being told that they had money coming in. And so some investors would get money back, but then they would be encouraged to reinvest that back into the company. And right around the time of his death, it seems like he was freaking out about like what's going on, why isn't this 200 or however many millions of dollars that's supposed to be in the account, why isn't that there? And even after his death, she continued the Ponzi scheme. I covered the closing arguments. I thought the state did a really strong closing argument. And I thought the defense was a little lacking because the defense was trying to be like, how could she have possibly done this? How would he just allow her to do this to him? There is some heartbreaking. So I've already kind of scanned some of the impact statements that are currently going on today. The defense is going first, and they have presented multiple witnesses. We are going to take a look at that, but let's take a look at the verdict. Y'all can probably guess what the verdict was if we are at sentencing. So she was charged with first-degree murder in the death of her husband, Michael. And let's see here. All right. So here is the verdict. And this case is out of West Virginia. And so let's just take a look at this.
In the case of State of West Virginia versus Natalie Page Cochran, case number 23-F-343K, the jury verdict is as follows. We, the jury on the issues, joined unanimously find the following. The defendant is guilty of murder in the first degree. The verdict form is signed by foreperson of the jury. It is dated 1/29/2025. There are no marks on the portion of the verdict form pertaining to involuntary manslaughter. Does the state wish to examine the jury verdict form?
Thank you.
All right. So she was found guilty, and then they move into the penalty phase. And in West Virginia, they call it mercy. So a defendant can get mercy. She's facing mandatory 15 years, and the jury is going to decide if she gets life with or without the possibility of parole. And what that would mean is after 15 years, she would be eligible for parole if they give mercy, or that she would be in jail for the rest of her life. That is what the jury is deciding today. They have been in court since 9 a.m. and there have been multiple people that have testified for the defendant. So her witnesses are going first, and two of those witnesses, once again, are her children. I thought her daughter was 20 years old, and I think even her lawyer thought she was 22, that she was 20 as well, but her daughter is actually 19 years old, and we are going to hear her son give his statement, and he is 17 years old. So we are not going to see him. We're just going to hear his statement. I will pause at times if there is because they're going to try to make her out to be this because but this is what the defendant's witnesses are supposed to do. They are supposed to make her out to be this amazing, wonderful person that, in spite of being convicted of this crime, her witnesses are going to urge for her to be given mercy. So, one of the first people to go up was, and I'm going to skip past the part where they're going back and forth. Um, and I'm getting this from Court TV, and I do have the full link down in the description. I'm going to open it in another tab because they have the witnesses' names in the description, which is awesome. All right, so let's start here. This is, I want to say, her aunt. Let's see.
Do you know Natalie Cochran?
Yes.
Do you have any relationship, family relationship to her?
Yes, she's my baby sister.
Her sister. Her sister.
So you've known Natalie virtually all of her life.
Yes.
And so they are going to describe Natalie as this loving mother and just how awesome she was. But then the state gets to cross-examine these witnesses. And I think the state is doing a good job with this part. And so let's hear the cross-examination, because you already know her big sister is going to still see her as the little girl that loved to watch My Little Pony. But I thought the state had some really good questions for her.
The defendant grew up to be a little bit different than she was when she was your little sister, 12 years younger than you. Turned out a little bit different than what it looked like at the time, didn't it?
I mean, I don't know what that means, different. I know you found her guilty of this, but she was still my sister. I mean, I always trusted and loved her.
Absolutely. And blood is very thick. You're loyal to your sister. Fair enough?
Yes.
You're also an educator by training, correct?
Yes.
Do you think there should be consequences for misbehavior?
Yes.
And it should be proportional to what the misbehavior was, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I also believe that fair is not equal and equal is not fair. I just think a lot of things have to be considered. I know that there's been mercy given to people that did a lot worse.
Okay, we'll just accept that. The last time you testified in this case, you didn't recall how much you lost in your investments with the defendant.
So I just want to clarify. So Natalie's older sister was one of the individuals that invested in the Ponzi scheme. So the business that Natalie was claiming to own and that she was running, there was no actual business. They weren't winning government contracts. They weren't fulfilling orders. It was just a big Ponzi. It was a fraud. And she's currently serving 11 years in federal prison and she did plead guilty to those charges. And so so he's bringing up how much money did the sister lose in that Ponzi scheme.
Did you go back and check?
I did. I said it was around $50,000.
And is that what it was?
I told you I didn't keep accurate records. I just
$50,000. And that's just what she can remember. Like, that's what she recalls.
She would use my credit card, then I'd pay some, then I'd give her more and pay, and I just never really kept. But I was 50,000 in the hole, and everything was said and done.
Where did that money come out of your retirement or something?
No,
just cash you had?
Actually, it was more of my credit cards.
And I wonder if Dr. G Explains is going to break down some of her body language during this part, during, hey, mama. Yes, $50,000 of credit card debt. $50,000. So once it was determined this was a fraud and she was looking at how much she still owed, it was $50,000. But I think her credit card was used to purchase, 'cause I think they were purchasing items or something. It was the whole scheme. Lawyer Lee did a really good job breaking down what all happened in the scheme. All right, let me go on ahead and keep this going.
Oh, okay. So when you had to pay your credit card bills, you were paying the principal, or did you pay them off each month, or
It
did you
just
have interest?
depended. It just depended. I tried to do as much as I could. I was a single mom at the time.
Oh, okay.
Single mother.
In her federal case, she pled guilty to the wire fraud and money laundering, right?
I don't know what the exact charges were, but she
Okay.
did plead guilty.
Right.
I don't remember. I don't know the exact charges.
Okay. And you'd mentioned her contributing to the community.
Yes.
Were you aware of some scholarships, the Michael Cochran Legacy Scholarships?
Yes.
Those scholarships were awarded by the defendant,
Yes, I think so.
but they were never funded, were they?
No.
So let me explain. So I think after his death, she offered scholarships in memory of her husband, but those scholarships were talk on, like there was no money behind it. So the money was never paid. So the student that thought they received a $1,000, or I don't know exactly how much it was, the people that thought they received that scholarship, um, there was no money behind that.
But she did raise some money for the Michael Cochran
Uh-oh.
scholarships, legacy scholarship, correct?
I do not know.
Okay. You just know that in her community activities, she awarded them, but those kids never got a dime.
Correct.
Your Honor, I think that's all the state has of this witness. Thank you.
All right. Anything further?
All right. And so we're going to skip to the next witness. I think this one is her aunt. Yes. All right.
Act ever since she was born. Natalie's always been the most compassionate, kind, caring person throughout her life, always putting others before herself.
And that must be hard for the jury to hear. So once again, we are not on the jury. We are not going to be the ones that decide what happens to Natalie. And I think the jury is going to deliberate to decide. And so, because Court TV is calling this day one, the jury might decide maybe tomorrow. So we don't know if there's going to be a decision today, whether she gets mercy or does not get mercy. And that's life with or without the possibility of parole. But hearing that she was kind, compassionate, and that she always put others first, and then also knowing that she ran an over like millions of dollars. I'm talking almost like $500 million Ponzi scheme, stealing from her friends, family, investors. It's hard to reconcile both of those things. And so, yes, maybe she was kind at times, but it sounds like there was this other side. And these are the defense witnesses. So these are the witnesses that are going to be on the defendant's side. We're going to keep it going.
She is a loving mother and is selfless when it comes to the needs of her children. After Natalie's heart became worse and more difficult, to where at times she couldn't drive, and her parents were trying to help, and they would have appointments. And my husband and I would drive the children to school in Greenbrier County. And on those trips, just being alone, usually when we were together, it was at big family gatherings, but just having the kids in the car, we became very close with the kids. And Since the death of their dad, they became extra close to their mother, and she was just always there for them.
Now, ma'am, I want to interrupt you for just a moment. You're referring to some notes.
And so he's just going to make sure that nobody gave her those notes. But when we talk about the death of their dad, Natalie is the one that is charged and convicted with his murder. So,
Yes.
Were you aware that Natalie had not one, but two surgeries on her heart,
Yes.
and that she currently has an implant in her chest to help with her heartbeat?
Yes.
Okay. No, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Please go on.
That's okay. I just, since the kids have become so attached to their mom, I'm just asking that you would have mercy on her, that they might have some hope that at some point in time, when she does get out of prison, they would be able to spend some time with her. That would mean a lot to them. And I want to also emphasize that Natalie has always been faithful to volunteer her services and to help others. And I have a list here of things that I'm aware of personally that she has done. As a youth, she donated her money to buy Christmas presents for the needy. She would come to my elderly aunt's home and other elderly people to give them flu shots and to help with other necessary needs.
and when people are talking about how positive she was, she gets very emotional. So Natalie cries when people are up saying very positive things about her. To me, it seems like she's crying for herself. I don't, but that's, we always look at this and it can be hard to figure out and say. To my knowledge, she has not, because I'm looking at the court TV because they have a list of everybody that has spoken. We're not at the point where Natalie speaks. I'll be interested to see what she decides to say, if she does say anything at all. But it's hard to listen to all of these wonderful deeds knowing what she did. There was also a niece that gave some statements. Um, Her dad also gave some statements, and I thought that, because the prosecution really didn't ask him that many questions, but then her mom, so Natalie's mom, they asked her quite a few questions. And so, because Natalie's mom has a timeline, and so let's hear what Natalie's mom has to say.
Would you please tell this jury what kind of a person Natalie is and was to you, and why they should consider granting her mercy?
My husband and I didn't talk about what we were saying, but I did a little timeline. I thought that would help me stay focused today. But she was born to us late in life. And all the siblings were growing up and going, and she was still home with us. So there was the three of us, all through childhood.
Ma'am,
Yes.
if you would,
No,
slowly. So I want the jury to hear everything you have to say. Thank you.
all through childhood, she did terrific in school. There was never a problem. And I don't want to be funny, but the only problem I had with her in second grade, over half of her classroom got lice, and she was one of them. And so with her curly, tight hair, I had a hard time with her. That's the only thing.
And so I think the mom is trying to say that, like, she had a good character. There wasn't this history of behavior problems. She didn't have this history of, she wasn't a behavior problem. When we're looking at diagnoses, normally with antisocial personality disorder, there would be some conduct in childhood and in the teenage years that would identify somebody as a problem. This is also people that are very much on her side, on Natalie's side, their perspective. I would love to hear if there were any people from her high school that knew a different side. That would just be interesting if that existed.
She was a wonderful child. She was active in cheerleading, music. Oh, she's talented. She can sing. She can play the piano. It embarrasses her too, and she gets nervous, so she seldom does it. But I think she'd probably go to Nashville. She'd sing at church and things. But always a joy. And like others said, her aunt would give all the kids a good bit of money at Christmas. She always took half of hers and gave it to others. And that's in childhood. And then in high school, it was the same way. She didn't date very much. She worked. She didn't have to work, but she wanted to work, and she worked at a sporting goods store. And that's where she met Michael. And they were 18 when he came to our house, and he became like a son to us. I made notes.
You can see the grief that Natalie's mom has for Michael. You can see it.
I don't want to forget anything. But
Yes, ma'am. And I just want to clarify those notes.
yes, sir.
Those are your notes
Yes,
to refresh your memory.
yes, sir. 'Cause-
Nobody else made them. Nobody else told you to write them down. Is that right?
No, sir.
Okay, go ahead, please.
So they dated, and then the summer after the 12th grade, I think it was, they graduated. Larry and I drove Michael other places to play summer baseball. He loved baseball. We stayed together in motels, Larry and Ashton, Michael, and then Natalie and myself.
Okay,
Um,
just a little slower.
Oh,
I know you want to get it all out, and I want to hear it. I know the jury wants to hear it. So just, slow it down a little bit. Thank you.
So then college came, and after the first year of college, they were married. When they had the wedding, her professor had a band, a bluegrass band, and he brought his band down, and they played Civil War music for the wedding. We had it outdoors, and Michael wasn't real close to his dad at that time, his biological dad. But his dad came with his stepmother, and her name was Dream, I believe. They helped me. We painted. We did yard work. We put down mulch. And they were in his life at that time. After they were married, Dreama and Mike gave him a cruise for a wedding present. So we took care of the wedding. His daddy and stepmother took care of their honeymoon. When they came back, we bought him it was a nice trailer. A dentist had it, and we added patio and a porch.
So I promise you all, I have the full link down in the description. All right. Okay, this next part's going to make her a little emotional. So let's see where we are.
In the prisons, federal prisons, you can have a book like this if it's for journaling and for religious reasons. So there's 2 reasons these girls get to keep these. And it helps inmates. It's Natalie's inner feelings about being there, things that she faced outside, inside. These girls relate to it. There's no one else that can relate like this girl does.
So I think she wrote a book. Did she write a book? She might have wrote a journal to help people or something. I don't know.
And I hope God doesn't keep her there forever.
And you're pointing to Natalie. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
don't want God to keep her in prison forever, but she's a prison ministry person. And it's called the dandelion ministry, because even a dandelion will grow through concrete. I have my own ministry called Sowing for Souls, but I've also adopted this ministry, and I'm going to do all I can. I'm already doing things for inmates, and so is she. We get books, we get Bibles, we get clothes for them. Some of these girls have 0 people. They were raised on the street. Nobody knows the heartache these girls inmates in prisons go through.
Okay, I just want to interrupt you a little bit. You're talking about things Natalie has been doing in prison, both in the federal prison and possibly the Southern Regional Jail.
I think there was about 30 some of these books at Southern Regional, and a girl came out there the other day and told Natalie she had been in a drug rehab in Charleston. She said, they're using your book down there. The second book's at the publishers are on its way. I finished typing and doing things. It's been sent out. But she makes such a difference.
You're
She's worked
talking
for
about, and
administration.
again, you're talking about Natalie.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Natalie's worked for administration. She works as the barista at the prison that's serving the guards and people Starbucks coffee. She trains people to do that out on the streets once they're released.
And this is while she's been in prison.
Incarcerated. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I didn't think she would live there. She's never struck a kid. She's never struck her pets or anything. She's soft voiced, and we all thought
But her husband was on the floor in a diabetic coma, likely for 6 hours after hitting his head so hard that it likely left a dent on the counter. And she did nothing. I think she called some people over. They recommended to go to the hospital. She did not. And so it's just it's hard. It's hard. It really is hard. But we're gonna let her, and I think the state, because the state is gonna start asking, okay, so in the next like 5 minutes or so, the state's gonna ask.
somebody will kill her. She's been in some situations, but there's always been someone to look after. She does not know the difference in the color of people, and I don't either. She does not notice the difference in sizes of people, and they know that. A woman wrote me and said as soon as she walked in the prison, they knew there was a difference there, a light, and she is a light, and that's what she's been to me. She's a light. And whenever I need something, she'll say, Mommy, I'm fine. Don't worry, I'm fine. And so when I know she says fine, I know she's not really fine. She's just trying to keep me from being upset.
And again, you're talking about your
Natalie,
conversations
my
with,
daughter.
you're talking about conversations with Natalie in prison.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Okay.
sir. And we've run across so many good people. There are so many ugly people out there, how they treat others. But
So interesting that she doesn't like her daughter, like, and she was a pharmacist. And that's where, if she wasn't a pharmacist, I don't know if the jury would have convicted her of first degree murder. But the fact that she was a pharmacist, and I think she checked his blood sugar after he passed out, and the fact that she did not get him medical help. And I think she's the one that decided to put him in hospice where he later died. Like, this is hard, but we're gonna keep going.
in her path, there have been so many good people, administrators and all that have helped. And I don't know if I can say it in court. No one would give her heart medicine at Southern Regional. She was so sick. Senator Roberts helped me to get medicine for her. At the federal prison, people here didn't even send that she had had heart surgery or heart problems. They didn't know, and they wouldn't give her anything. They wouldn't listen to Senator Roberts because he stayed.
Okay, I need to interrupt you here. When you say they, are you
The
talking?
administrators.
Hold on, let me ask my question. Are you saying the prison's personnel are not giving Natalie adequate medical treatment? Is that what you're saying?
They are now. They are now, thanks to Representative Carol Miller.
Let's not go into
Okay.
side names and issues.
Okay.
And I think because of how she kind of talks and goes off on these other things, I think that's why the state asked her more questions, especially mother, like as Natalie's mom, because Natalie is a mom. And when her kids are talking about their dad, like, Natalie is the one convicted of this. And so, yeah, it's hard.
So you're concerned for Natalie's health while she's in prison. Would that be a fair statement?
Oh, yes, because every time she's drugged down here, she misses her heart appointments because they keep putting them out, and you never know when you have an appointment. They just come and get you sometime at 6:30 in the morning and say, it's your appointment. Let's go to Morgan.
It's almost, but the reason why she's there is because she defrauded people. Like that's why she's there.
So like your husband, even if this jury gives Natalie mercy, you may not be alive when she gets out, possibly in 15 years.
I don't look for that. My mother lived to be over 100, but I don't feel like I can.
Okay. So your hope.
And Natalie's father also said that due to his health, he wasn't sure if he had like 15 more years. And so
That Natalie might get out and you might be able to spend more time with her. Is that correct?
I want her to, I'd love to be able to spend, I want to hug her. And the bailiff here's let me give her a couple of hugs, but I want to just hold her for a long time.
Okay, now, this jury's already decided that Natalie has killed her husband,
Yep.
Michael. And you've talked about your close relationship with Michael, your husband's close relationship. Given that they've already made that decision, do you think Natalie should have the opportunity to be paroled in 15 years or more and have the opportunity to get out of prison, even though they found she killed Michael?
I do. I beg. I don't know what else I can say except please give mercy to her. It won't be for me probably, but be for her and her children and grandchildren someday.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now for the-
Cross-examination.
Thank you. Ms. Jessup, how many years did you teach
30 years.
in Raleigh County?
Yes, sir.
What did you teach?
Elementary school mostly.
Wow, 30 years. Was Mr. Jessup a teacher too?
My husband.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Again, I'm having some trouble hearing the prosecutor.
Was Mr. Jessup a teacher too?
No, he worked at the Board of Education in accounting.
Oh, he did.
He
He's
was
a,
assistant down there to the main accountant.
does he have a degree in accounting?
That was his major in school. And he was also a state tax examiner at one time. I think he wrote maybe the manual for that. At one time, I don't know if they still use the manual or not.
The defendant has a degree in pharmacy, correct?
She's a doctor of pharmacy.
a doctor.
So it's beyond just graduating from pharmacy school. She did something else?
Well, I think they put more title to it, more courses or something. Used to be you could be a pharmacist without having that doctorate degree, but it's more years or something at her time when she graduated.
And then she went on to get an MBA, right?
Access Health paid for that. And I went with her to take tests and things in Morgantown and stayed with her while she did group work with other people working on that degree.
As a teacher, you must have been ecstatic that your daughter did so well academically.
All of my children have done well. We would strive to do well in school.
Now, did you and Mr. Jessup provide the financial aid for the defendant to go to pharmacy school?
We did all we could, but she worked and I think they had some grants because I had to put 4 through college. And I
I'm
was
sorry, you had
helping-
to do what?
We had to put 4 children through college, and then we were helping Michael and Natalie together as much as we could financially.
You were also a victim of the Ponzi scheme, were you not?
I was not a victim of the Ponzi scheme.
So you and your husband didn't invest with the defendant in the
I
contract?
invested, I gave money to Michael's company at the time.
She's calling it Michael's company and not her daughter was the majority share owner. This is hard. So my mom asked if there's any sense of entitlement. So what I'm hearing, me personally, so I do not know them, just in seeing what she's charged with, I've seen supporters of the defendant get up and say things that I think are enabling. So to me, they aren't holding her responsible for her actions. If my brother, if something happened to his wife and he didn't immediately get her help, I would be mad at my brother. If somebody in my family did a crime, even if they are a phenomenal person and all of that, I would not show up at sentencing on the, now I would be honest. So like if it's like, but it would be hard. Like if they did a major crime, like unaliving somebody or something, I'm not I'm not your character witness. I've told y'all before, I am a snitch or a reporter. Like I'm telling everybody everything. So, but that's just the way I'm big on accountability. I think accountability is important. I teach my child about consequences. They literally point the blame at everyone else, and the son is going to blame the dad's steroid use. And even if steroids do cause, I think they cause blood sugar to raise some, but, like, the mom is not taking Natalie is not taking responsibility, in my personal opinion, for her lack of action. At minimum, I think it was manslaughter. The jury said it was murder, and I think her medical history is what made that worse. So I just hear a lot of turning a blind eye. That's why so the prosecution's witnesses are going right now, and we are going to catch up to that probably so by no later than 2:30. So I'm East Coast. So it's 1:38 right now. No later than, but I think possibly by 2:15, we should be we should be listening to the prosecution witnesses, and we might catch up to the live stream. All right. We're gonna let this keep going because it was not Michael's company. It was her daughter was the majority shareholder, and she was the one. Now I think Michael helped. I think Michael played a significant role, but there was no evidence that he was aware that it was a Ponzi scheme.
$226. I knew what I was doing. I was investing.
$226 is all you had?
$226,000
$226,000.
or more,
Okay.
thousands.
And you didn't get that money back?
No, all the money was seized and taken and sealed. We do not know how much money was in their accounts. We do not know how much money was in the company. No one investigated to see if this was maybe a scam on the kids. The kids would never hurt me. Michael and Natalie would.
Ma'am, like she's literally not believing the Ponzi scheme that her daughter pled guilty to and saying they didn't investigate. The federal government does not charge you without an investigation. So I think the federal government's conviction rate is high. Like when you get charged, you're most likely going to be found guilty. If they charge you with a crime, you're most likely going to be found guilty. And like so that's where I hear enabling and some denial. Like that's what I hear in some of this. Enabling and just pure, and mama said it before I did, pure denial. Like she did the things. Like we can agree on the Ponzi scheme, I thought. So
Never do anything to hurt us. Something's wrong, but no one investigated.
but the interesting thing, I think, with the jury, the mother's lack of seeing this, of seeing her daughter for what her daughter did, to me, if I was on the jury, I would be afraid that there were people around Natalie that wouldn't make sure that this didn't happen again. Because what would stop something like this from happening again? Justice for Michael. Like that's all I can say. That's how I feel. These are my personal thoughts. We're just watching.
Didn't you file a claim as part of the federal restitution?
My husband took care of that but I think they didn't think we were victims. We're not victims. We'll never get any money back. Natalie asked the government to consider us victims. They said no. We tried to buy, if I'm doing something wrong, you tell me. We tried to buy Natalie's house for the children, put it in their name and our name. We offered, we could pay $320,000. We sold our house to do it. Michael's family fought us on that. At one time we were given.
So this family has been broken. Okay. Like this family is very, very broken. Okay. Understandably, a situation like this will tear and rip families apart. Um, I hope that after this, after the sentencing and all of that, for the sake of the kids, I do hope that some of this can be mended, but that'll be on the people involved.
Getting it, and then one judge backed out. They sold the house for $280 or $285, so the children don't have their home, they don't have their dad, they don't have their mom, they have two old people. And I'm so thankful for the other young folks that take care of the kids, teachers in Greenbrier County, principals. These kids can stay at their homes if there's ever snowstorms and things like that. That's why I said, you don't know the good people that have come out of this, the blessings we've seen from people.
And I gather by your discussion of times that you've been to Africa and helped people out and stuff that the defendant was raised in a very religious oriented environment. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir, but I think she's more spiritual than I am. I cannot write and speak like she can.
This is hard. This is really hard. So, my heart goes out to Natalie's mom. Okay, so none of this is directed. As a mom, I want to believe the best in my child, but it hurts my child if I don't see them for who they. So a person can be two things at the same time. My child can be uh uh very disciplined and also be sneaky, where I have to like watch. So my kiddo, he can be a little sneaky and I have to watch out for him. When he gets home from school today, if we're still live, because I asked him this morning to make his bed before he left for school. He didn't do it. And so I told him, after school, you're gonna have to make your bed. Now, could I just make his bed for him? Yes. But then he doesn't learn, like, oh, if I don't do it, mom will just do it. No, like he's gonna make his bed when he gets home. It just seems like Natalie was spoiled, and I don't know that she's had to face consequences. I don't know. This is so hard. We're gonna keep it going.
And how to reach other people. I help children, but yet it multiplied. We put in wells, we feed people, schools. I built schools. Nobody knows just all the people that come forward throughout the United States. There's a man in Zambia watching every minute of this, Pastor Luke Katasha. I've got people in Burma and different countries that are praying for us around. One of them prayed around the clock a whole month, a big church.
But back to my question, you raised the defendant in a very Christian, religious oriented home. Is that
We
fair to
did.
say?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And since you've been involved with the defendant since she was put on this earth, right up to the present, where did things go off the track with her?
Well, if I overstep, you tell me to stop talking, because Michael was out of work. She was a pharmacist. He watched a movie called War Dogs, and I do not appreciate all the cursing, but he wanted me to watch it, so I watched it. He was going to do government contracts.
So I didn't get through this full one earlier. So we're gonna breathe. We're gonna take a breath. I'll interrupt her when I need to breathe too. If you need to step away from this and come back, please do. She is about to speak, but I because the jury has to hear this, and the jury is going to make their decision based on this. And I think the prosecution wants the jury to see how blinded the family is to who Natalie really was. Like, I think that's what's happening here.
In the movie, the two men go to prison for 20 years apiece or more. I think they're out now. And I begged him, I said, don't you do anything wrong. He said, I won't. And then he started to open it up to family. And I said, keep it in the family. I knew some of the family members involved. I did not know some of the doctors involved at the time and people like that. If you kept it in the family, I think things would be fine, but it got outside. And I don't think Michael was doing anything illegal. I think Michael thought he was doing right. They were going to look in to see if it was a scam. But then they had Natalie. Can I tell the jury what she pled to? It wasn't a Ponzi scheme. The first thing, and I wrote the numbers down on the indictment, was number 6. She bought Michael a black
Wire fraud. She pled guilty to wire fraud.
car frame. It doesn't even have a motor. It was a Cobra. And that's called money laundering because it went across state lines or something. The motor came from somewhere else. They didn't do a thing about that. The other thing, her name was on the bank account. If my husband gets arrested, my name's on the account. I'll probably go too. And the same with the kids. If Michael were here, he and Natalie would both be in trouble, but maybe.
Okay. So there are text messages of her trying to get money from people. She continued to try to collect money from people and hide the fact that there was no money. And I don't think her mom believes that her daughter could do that, but her daughter did. Even her lawyer said that she did.
maybe some help would come for her. Michael and Natalie loves us. They would never hurt us in any way.
You and Mr. Jessup had 4 children, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And they're all still alive?
Yes, sir.
Can you think how awful it would be to lose one of them?
Oh, wow.
We lost one. We lost Michael. He was like a son to us.
And from his mother's perspective, that would be as bad or worse than your loss. Is that fair to say?
No, sir. I don't think it's fair to say. I'd like to say something, but I've not been negative about his family. And I don't know if I can do that in court, so I probably shouldn't say anything.
Okay.
Don't say that.
Thank you. State has no further questions.
Anything further, Mr. Selden?
Yes, Your Honor.
We aren't going to listen to them try to clean that up. So then a friend, so the son, Angie Martin, so the defendant's friend, she found out that Natalie was in prison for this, and her daughter was dating Natalie's son. They dated for about 2 years, and she's here to talk about their friendship. We are going to skip past that. We are going to get to listen to the audio of the defendant's son. So this is going to be hard. Okay. All right. He is appropriately going to be very, you're going to hear that he's upset. He is 17 years old. They do not use his name, and I'm glad that his name was kept out of all of this. And we're going to listen to it.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You may have a seat there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How do you know Natalie Cochran? And well, first of all, Your Honor, instead of this witness going through his full name, I'll just ask him to identify himself by the initials MAC.
All right, that would be appropriate.
And as you've heard, you're appearing here today on your mother's behalf, Natalie Cochran, to appeal to this jury to find mercy for your mother. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, you're probably one of the 2 most familiar people with your mother.
Yes, sir.
I'll ask you, would you tell this jury why your mother should be granted mercy despite the fact that she's been convicted by this jury of first-degree murder? Would you please address the jury on that?
My mom has done.
Could you tilt the microphone up a little bit
Yeah.
and speak into it? Thank you.
My mom has been there through everything for me. Every baseball game, football game.
This is so he's 17 now. This happened, I want to say in 2019. I want to say it was 29. It was almost 6 years ago. It'll be 6 years in February. And so he was a young child when all this happened. He testified for the defense during the trial.
School event.
Yeah.
She's helped me live my day-to-day life. She still calls me more than once a day, as much as possible. And
I know this is hard for you. Just do the best you can, okay? If you need to take breaks, take breaks. Gather your thoughts, whatever you need.
after my dad died, we were all very depressed, a very sad family. She would always text me in the middle of the night, asking me if I want my midnight snack or checking up on me, making sure I'm good. She always let me do whatever made me happy. She took us to church.
If you need to use it, the Kleenex box is there. Go ahead. Let me direct questions a little bit. I know it's difficult for you to formulate your thoughts. How do you think your mother is needed in your life from this point on? She's been convicted. Okay. She's going to prison.
15 years
The
minimum.
question here today is, does she go to prison for the rest of her life? Or is she eligible for parole in 15 years for mercy? How do you think you need your mother in your life? Or even if you think you need your mother in your life from this point forward?
I want my kids to have a grandmother. I want them to know her. I want them to be able to go over to their grandma's house and have Christmas and spend time with her.
And if she won't admit what she did, I don't know that Natalie is a safe person. My own personal thoughts. She's been convicted of first-degree capital M. It really, yeah, Mama Bear, I definitely hear that. And she is, and he's 100% on his mother's side, and he's going to blame it on his father's steroid use. So, like, he's gonna think this was his father's fault, which breaks my heart. It really does.
Would you like her to be around and possibly out of prison if you get married or anything like that?
Yes.
You were close to your father as well as your mother.
I'm gonna pause it. So, the theory is that he was going to find out that their company was a Ponzi scheme, that there was no money, that she was lying when she was saying money's coming. Because she said 206 some this huge number. It was over $200 million was supposed to hit their bank account right around the time that he died. And he's going to the bank. He's trying to figure out why the money that she says should be there isn't there. Because after Michael's death, Natalie continued the Ponzi scheme. Like, she didn't stop doing the crime. And the defense was trying to say, like, oh, he knew it was a Ponzi scheme. She had no reason to to kill him. If he had come to her and said that he wanted her to stop, that she would have stopped. Or if he had come and said that there was a problem, that they would have got a lawyer. And I don't think she wanted to stop. That's my personal thoughts on this. And I believe that was the state's theory as well, that she wanted to continue the scam, the Ponzi scheme, and not accept responsibility. So don't defraud people, don't do fraud, don't do crimes. I think she liked having the money and feeling successful and feeling like she was running the successful business, but it was a sham. It was they were getting in money to pay out investors, but then they had to get more investors to pay out those investors. It's a Ponzi scheme. So that's what happened. All right.
Mother, right?
Very.
And even though your mother's been convicted of your father's death, do you have any animosity towards your mother, any desire for her to stay in prison for the rest of her life, or anything like that?
Not at all. Not at all. I love both of them to death.
I believe it.
And he knows that he was abusing steroids. It's his fault. Do anything to save him.
I'm sorry.
Do anything to save him.
That breaks my heart that the son says, I'll do anything to save him. When, if his mother had called because she saw him pass out. I covered the closing arguments. If you would like to go back and check out the closing arguments, it'll be my next to last live video. I covered that. The state showed a picture. My camera keeps moving. So if you see my camera moving and I move it back, the state showed, so Natalie took a picture of Michael passed out on the ground in the kitchen and then waited hours. A family friend is the one, two male family friends, they end up just picking him up and putting him in the car and taking him to the hospital. They did call, so like I think a friend, somebody was a nurse practitioner. They come and they're pleading with her to take him to the hospital. And so like this, and for the son to say it's the steroids, and his mom could have got him help. He might have survived if he hadn't stayed in that, if he had received appropriate medical care sooner. My personal thought is she wanted him to die, and the jury convicted her of first degree. So breaks my heart.
So
Who would do anything to save him?
I would.
Okay. Are you 17 years old?
Yes, sir.
And I don't mean to be leading, but
And so he's just going to say that he wants his dad there. I don't think the state asked a whole bunch of questions after. So I'm going to skip through the rest. This is her daughter. So the 20-year-old daughter. This is Natalie's 19-year-old daughter.
Cochran.
And what relationship, if any, to Natalie Cochran are you?
I'm her daughter.
How old are you?
19.
So along with your brother who just testified, you are probably one of the two most familiar people with your mother's character, temperament, everything as far as her possible qualifications for mercy. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
Do you wish your mother to be granted mercy by this jury?
Yes. Very, very badly.
I know you're very emotional. I couldn't hear your answer. Please take a moment,
Sorry.
please.
Yes, I do.
And I know this is a broad question, but can you tell this jury why you want your mother to receive mercy? And by that, I would like you to talk about how mercy or no mercy would affect your life.
She is my mother, but I've always kind of considered her to be my best friend. Growing up, it was Natalie, my mom. She just meant the world to me, and she would do the basic motherly duties, like pack my lunches, take me to school, take me to music lessons, to tennis practices, but we also did so much above that. She would read me bedtime stories when I was a young girl, and she kind of brought forth my love for books from that. She used to do anything for me. She watched hours of YouTube videos to learn how to do my hair a certain way so that I could have it for tennis practices. I've missed so many moments with my mother. I've missed getting ready with her for proms. I missed having her when I got my driver's license.
And it's because she's incarcerated for the fraud. So she's currently serving an 11-year federal sentence. And I don't know how that works. I don't know. I think she has to finish that 11-year sentence. I could be wrong. I don't know that they can run at the same time. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not the lawyer. Y'all, please ask. So Lawyer Lee covers this case as well, and she would be able to answer when the state sentence would start. Okay. All right. Let's keep this going.
I've missed her at birthdays and Christmases and Thanksgivings. I missed her at my high school graduation, and I missed her on the day I moved into college. I'm begging you to give her mercy so that I don't have to miss more. I want her at my birthdays in the future. I want her there when I get married, when I have kids, if I'm able. I want her there for all the major milestones in my life that I have left.
Does that include those statements? And I'm not telling you to go on. Do you want to say anything else? I'm going to have a couple follow-up questions, but is that
You can go ahead.
okay? You're 20 now, is that right?
19.
19. Sorry.
I thought she was 22. I thought she was 20 as well.
Your mother now is 44. You know that?
Yes, sir.
So even if she's granted mercy, she's going to be in jail for a minimum of 15 years. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
So you're going to be 34 years old after 15 years, and your mother's going to be 59 years old. Do you know that?
Yes, sir.
Do you think if your mother gets paroled or is eligible for parole in 15 years at the age of 59, maybe 60, she would still have life lessons to teach you?
Okay, so she's of course going to say yes, and I think the state appropriately is not asking more questions of the children. Now, I believe we are going to get to the prosecution, um, to the prosecution witnesses. All right, so let's get started. We are almost caught up to live. Gonna fast forward. And I can't get over the fact of how, like, calm and happy she looks right now, and it's fine, like, everybody expresses emotions different, everybody does things, but I don't know.
Presented by the state. Mr. Truman, please call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. State calls Stephanie Hamilton.
That's a former friend of Natalie's,
Raise your right hand.
not a current
Swear
friend.
or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
You may have a seat.
You are Stephanie Hamilton,
I am Stephanie
and
Hamilton.
the jury has already heard your testimony previously, but we're now in the penalty phase, and that involves the character of the defendant.
Mhm.
Could you describe just briefly your relationship with the defendant?
I met.
Okay, wait a minute. So the chat is amazing. That's why I love to cover these things live. So this is the neighbor with the diabetic child. And this neighbor trusted Natalie to keep extra insulin at her house. So there are quite I think they don't know exactly which, I don't know. Like there are questions. I don't know that they know exactly which vial. They could. I don't. But the way that they tried to explain there being insulin in the house was the fact that Natalie kept it for this witness's child. All right, we're going to keep it going.
Her through the youth football league. Mike was one of our son's coaches,
Oh.
and I met her through that, and we became friends.
Were you pretty good friends?
I thought so.
You thought so. And did some things happen that led you to change your mind on that?
Yes.
Tell us what that was.
She lied to us. She manipulated us. My son.
I'm going to object this unless we have some specific testimony.
The defense is going to object. She lied about the money. She did manipulate them. She did. Hey, Kelly's Corner. Welcome, welcome. All right, we're going to keep it going.
Just
All right, perhaps we should establish a foundation as to who, what, when, and where, Mr. Truman.
Yes, sir. Ms. Hamilton, you indicated that the defendant lied to you. Can you tell the jury some specifics as to that?
Well, our son was very sick, and he had just went through a really bad surgery. We thought we were facing cancer. He was 13 at the time, And we didn't know what we were going to be facing with him. And she used that situation to talk about the contracts working for her so I could stay at home more with my son. And, you know,
I just want to say what she's not saying. In the midst of her tragedy with thinking her child might have cancer, Natalie encouraged her to invest in her fraudulent business that she didn't realize was fraudulent. And you're going to ask me, what do you mean by she lied? Like, I get why the defense objected, but let's get into this. Let's talk about it.
we gave money. There was always, promises of money,
Okay.
more money.
Thanks for this.
And there was never money.
So you're talking about the investment with the defendant
Mhm.
and you were never paid back. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. The jury may recall that you are a physician's assistant and you explained to them in general terms what that did.
Right.
Did the defendant utilize your position as a physician's assistant and take advantage of you on some occasions?
Yes. I mean, she had asked me for medication once.
That's illegal. If it's prescription medication, that's not particularly legal. I'm not a lawyer. That doesn't seem legal. That seems crime adjacent or crimey. Feels a bit crimey to me.
She used my position for her cover.
Explain that. Sorry. When you say that, used your position as cover, what did you mean by that?
The day of Michael's sickness.
And how did she go about using you as cover?
Telling everyone that she had me there as the provider.
I'm going to object. We need to approach the bench on this one. All right.
I think this is true because Natalie called her over and this person is sitting here like, hey, he needs medical help. And she's like, oh no, it'll be fine. It's like, oh no, we have a physician assistant here. It's fine.
Thank you, Your Honor. You can go ahead and answer that question.
Telling investigators that I was there as the provider that checked Michael. She had a provider there, named me, used that for her cover.
To say that, oh, I didn't take him to the hospital because she's a physician's assistant and so she was taking care of him. No, he needed emergency care. That's what he needed.
Do you have some survivor's guilt or witness guilt in terms of Michael having died and you were present at the time?
Yes.
Or on the day that he fell?
What is it now? I'm
Do
sorry.
you have some survivor's guilt over that?
I think we all do, hindsight. But when you think about the events of the day and you go there and she tells a story and I didn't know his history. I didn't know anything about what the situation was there. I was there briefly. And I advised her, what she should do and made many efforts to make suggestions to go here, to go there, we'll go here. And she was not going to take that. But as a friend, you don't think that someone has done something to their husband.
That's all questions the state has. Thank you.
That was enough.
You said you lost some money in investing in Natalie Cochran's business, right?
Yes.
How much did you lose?
It's somewhere between $15,000-$17,000.
Never recovered that money, right?
Right.
All right, that's all. Thank you.
Anything further?
And I think the defense brought that up to try to point out she's biased, but I don't know. I could relate to what she said.
A follow-up to that, when did you make that investment?
And I think the first time was in January of 2019, mid-January.
And
He
did
was
you
dead in
put
February.
the number you just gave defense counsel, was that all up front, or did you
No,
take that up?
over time.
Was some of it after Michael died?
Yes.
That's all the question the state had.
So even after Michael died, Natalie still accepted money for her for a business that was clearly fraudulent.
So in those increments, you lost what, $17,000?
Yes.
So when did you first learn that you were scammed?
After I started realizing there was multiple excuses as to why there wasn't anything coming back.
And you thought about all those increments of money that you paid Natalie or whoever, the company, right?
What is it?
And you thought about all those increments of money that you paid to the company, right?
I knew there was. I had never added it up until the end.
And that made you really mad.
No, actually, I was more hurt
Yeah.
of the lies than the
And you were,
money.
and you were still mad and hurt.
Hurt.
Right?
She said hurt. She said not
No,
mad.
I'm not mad
No,
and
you're not.
hurt.
All right. That's
Anything further, Mr. Truman?
No.
That's further from the state, Your Honor. Thank
You
you.
may step down.
So we're going to get to the next witness.
For nothing but the truth, so help you God.
This is another
You have a
friend,
seat right there.
John David.
All right, Ms. Anger.
Oh, the victim's friend. Oh.
John David Hamilton.
And we've already heard you testify here previously in the,
I think this is her husband because they were both, I think John David Hamilton, that might be Stephanie Hamilton's, it might be her husband. We'll see.
case in chief. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know the defendant, Natalie Cochran?
Through youth football.
And did you know her husband, Michael Cochran, as well?
Yes, Mike was a good friend of mine.
How do you feel about losing Mike?
I mean, losing Mike is bad on everybody. Donna, we lost a son, a father, a coach, and a friend.
And how has that affected you to lose him?
I mean, every day, you think about it. At least I do. And you go to someone's house as a friend, they call you over to help them. Just like my wife said, you take your friends at face value. You don't ever think that your friends are going to try to kill their husband or anything like that. You just take them at face value because why would they? These are people you went to football games with, you've ate pizza with, you've hung out with.
So along that same line, how have the defendant's actions with regard to Michael affected your life? How have they made you feel?
I mean, it's every day it's something there, I mean, just like today, Steph gets a message from somebody saying that, oh, we can't believe that you guys just let Michael lay there,
Oh, wow.
this and that.
Oh,
The
wow.
story we got was Michael had a seizure.
Oh, wow. Oh, please, nobody. So Stephanie and her husband, the people that were called there did not know what happened. They did not do anything wrong. And eventually it got to the point where they just decided, no, we're just going to take him to the hospital because his wife, who is a pharmacist, she's telling them, oh, he had a seizure. No, like he wouldn't want to go to the hospital. She's the one saying not to take him. They did not do anything wrong. That breaks my heart that they've received that kind of ugh.
Seizure. I went there to help Mike, get him off the floor, get him on the couch. I sit there, I told Natalie let's take him to the hospital. Natalie told me she wouldn't let him sleep it off.
Will the court give me a continuous
Yes,
exception
indeed.
in this case as well?
Certainly. The exception is fully preserved. Continue, please, Ms. Aker.
So would you say that the defendant's actions and Michael's death have affected your daily life?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Her face changes when people are saying stuff that she doesn't like. it looks kind of menacing to me. Like it looks like I don't know, like I don't know. I hope the jury's, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
And you and your wife are receiving some blame for that, right?
Yes.
It wasn't their fault.
How do you feel about the role that you played on February 6th of 2019?
As far as, and like what I wish I would have did, or just what happened?
As far as how you became involved, what do you feel in hindsight, looking back on that day?
Well, I mean, you think about it almost every day, and you really wish you could have did something different. But given the information you have at the time, you know, you feel horrible, especially for Donna, the kids, this and that. Like I said, they lost a father. You know, Donna lost a son. I lost a friend.
I think that's good for us. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, cross-examination, Mr. Victor.
Mr. Hamilton, did you lose any money on to Michael and Natalie Cochran's business?
My wife made the investment, sir, but yes, as a family, we did.
Okay. Now, how is your testimony today different from the testimony that you testified to at trial?
Huh?
How is it
As
different?
As far as what, sir?
Well, you're pretty much recalling the events of the day, right?
Yes, sir.
That's all. Thank you.
So did he say he didn't remember at trial? I didn't watch every second of it.
Go ahead.
That's weird.
During the case in chief and your cross-examination, were you ever actually given an opportunity to say how any of this made you feel?
No.
Thank you. No further questions.
You said something on direct concerning the children losing their father.
Yes.
They also lost the mother.
Because she
Right.
killed him.
Yes, because she killed their father.
I didn't ask you why, sir. I asked you a simple question.
Yes.
You don't like Natalie Cochran, do you?
No.
I don't like that she killed Mike.
Do you not like Natalie Cochran?
I wouldn't say I like her or dislike her, sir. As far as I'm concerned right now, sir, she's a criminal.
So the answer is no, I don't like her. Is it?
If you want to put it that way, sir.
So the defense is trying to make him look less credible, but I don't know that it's working. Can I call him the lawyer? Sounds like Gru from Minions. Y'all told me that in the chat last time. I can't unhear it. Once you hear it, you will never ever unhear it. So I don't laugh because any of this is funny. Okay. This is dark stuff. We have been at it for an hour and 23 minutes. We have to it's laughing to keep from crying. At the end of this, before I end the stream, I am also going to talk about the incident in Washington, D.C. at Reagan National Airport. I live right here in Northern Virginia. And so we are going to talk about that briefly. I'm not going to share any video. I just have a few thoughts after we get through all this. All right, let's keep it going.
You may step down, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
For Davis.
Truth and
Another
nothing but
friend
the
of
truth,
the
so help you God.
I do.
You may have a seat right there.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Christopher David.
Thank you. You are Chris Davis,
Yes, sir.
and you had testified before this jury previously. Tell us your relationship with Michael Cochran.
Mike was one of my best friends. And, we did a lot together and spent a lot of time together. And, we not only personally, but we coached sports together and, vacation together. And he was he is a dear friend.
You miss him?
I do.
So I love it when men cry, like when men get like not like a love, but like he's letting himself feel. Because I feel like the last guy, I think he had emotions, and I think he was trying to hold it in. He is just, oh, you can feel the grief. You can just feel it. Mm. Yeah. Make sure to breathe.
Mike was he was a very strong man. He's a good man. And he would want me to be strong now as well. And,
You are being strong.
he was a good man, a very good man. He wasn't the best father, the best friend, or the best husband, but I'm not either. But he's not what you heard he was. He loved his family. He took care of his family. He loved his friends. He loved his community. Spent a lot of time in the community. He loved life. He wasn't sick. He wasn't ready to die. He was healthy. Even up until the day he died. He had plans. He had lots of plans. He was doing lots of things. Couldn't wait to the things he was doing. And that was also for his family.
Let me shift gears totally with you. You and a couple other fellas gave some money to the defendant in this case. Correct?
We did, yes.
What was the total amount you gave her?
It was $511,000.
Dang.
And how much of that did you get back?
Ooh. Ooh, I felt that in my chest. Ooh, I felt that. Ooh. That's a house. And like that's a 500. He invested $511,000. $500,000. Dang. And I think he would rather have his friend. So she didn't have to do what she did. She didn't have to do that. So to me, he sounds more broken up about his. So I'm the one that can't get over the 511,000. Like it's not on him. That is me. And like I am in awe. With a nice view, like I am. Dang. So people, if anybody knows so the money was cycled. So in a Ponzi scheme, what happens is people invest in, and then you do give some money out, normally at high interest rates to encourage people to reinvest the money in. But and then because I think Michael and Natalie, they did buy a house for somebody. They did do like generous things. I think it also was, but Michael wasn't aware that they didn't have income, that this business was a fraud. He thought their success was because of the business, and it wasn't. Okay, I'm gonna make myself small. So I made myself small just to like center and focus because his testimony is very powerful. We have to go back for that $511,000.
Let me shift gears totally with you. You and a couple other fellas gave some money to the defendant in this case. Correct?
We did, yes.
What was the total amount you gave her?
It was $511,000.
And how much of that did you get back?
Um, the exact amount we got back, I'm not sure. I think it was probably around 50 or 60. And the reason I don't know is because there at the end, she was trying to send wires, and some would come, some wouldn't come, and some. So it's somewhere in that area.
Object and have the same continuing objection as in the other situation.
Go ahead, continue.
Go ahead, Chris.
And so the exact amount that we got back, I'm not for sure. I think it was probably, like I said, 50 or 60.
Did the three investors, did you give any money to the defendant after Mike died?
No, we did not. We were given the opportunity to reinvest. I mean, so we didn't give any additional money, but the idea to reinvest, I guess you could say we gave her that because we said, whatever, sure. I mean, it doesn't matter. During that time, there was so much stuff coming back and forth. We were trying to figure this out and trying to figure out one. And so, but there were reinvestment opportunities offered. And
who offered you the reinvestment opportunities?
Natalie.
And that was after Mike died?
Yes.
Is it fair to say you were a strong supporter of the defendant until you found out that things were not what you thought they would, what they appeared to be?
Yeah, I believe that's fair because we trusted her. As my wife testified as well, we trusted her.
Was that trust violated?
Yeah, because, we trusted her with the most precious thing to us, our family, our son, our kid, with respect, because as Jennifer said, she would ask her questions about diabetes and things like that. And so, yeah, that was absolutely violated, even on the day that the way she perpetrated it to Jennifer to even get insulin, and that lie that was perpetrated, and even throughout this trial, attempted to continue to lie about that.
So Jennifer, I think, is his wife. And so I think they are the parents of the child that has diabetes. Jennifer did not speak yet. I do not have her on the list of people that have already spoken today at sentencing. So just wanted to clarify that up.
And
I'm going to object again because we're not retrying this case. Because I'm really sorry, but
I think I have to sustain that objection.
Yeah.
And the idea that she was never given, she never kept insulin for our son.
Another objection?
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not this jury should grant mercy to this defendant?
I think this jury has been here for 3 weeks. And this jury's heard everything they need to know. They don't need my opinion.
Okay.
Don't need my thoughts. And you don't need me preaching at you. You know what you know. So with all due respect, I don't have opinion for these folks. I thank you. I know Mike would thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the questions the state has. Thank you.
All right, cross-examination, Mr. Victor.
Mr. Davis, I only have a couple of questions. When was the first time that you and your family met Natalie Cochran and Michael Cochran? Just give me a year if you.
I'm going to say 2011 or 2010.
Okay. So would you agree with me, sir, that throughout these years, you and your family and Natalie Cochran and her family became friends? You were neighbors and you were friends.
Absolutely.
And you did a lot of things together, right?
Absolutely.
That included Natalie Cochran, right? Think-
Absolutely.
And well, dinners, maybe some holidays, almost daily. You were in some contact with Natalie and Mike, right? Maybe
Yes.
not daily, but
I mean, to get to your question that you're getting at, we knew these folks very well.
okay.
Yes, and we're
Okay.
daily contact, whether it was me contacting Mike daily or my wife contacting Natalie
Right.
daily. Yes, there was friend interaction. a
Now,
lot.
would you agree with me, sir, that throughout those years, you had an opportunity to observe Natalie Cochran's good deeds?
But was she really good, or was she being manipulative? Because there's a difference. There's a difference with being kind and polite and getting friends that you can then use. That's manipulation. When you're only kind to people that you're trying to get close to and use for their money. So so people thought Alec Murdaugh was kind. People thought he was nice. People thought he was generous. He was the best. Oh my gosh. Like Alec, people thought he was awesome. And he was also like people entrusting him to pay out their judgments. They never thought that he would steal from them. But there was this other side that nobody else knew. And so uh, the defense is just doing their job. Okay. So I'll take a breath. The defense is doing their job. I don't think the jury is going to buy it. I don't think.
She was active in the community. She was involved in sports teams, supplying money for it. She was in Bible school. She was a pharmacist, helping people, giving lectures, etc., etc. Did you have that opportunity before you started realizing that something was awry?
Well, to answer your question directly,
Okay.
you started out, I would agree with you. I don't agree with you.
Okay, all right.
So now let me further state, I witnessed a lot of deeds, good, bad. The reason that I can't say I agree with you because I can't sit here and say that I believe any of those deeds were done in good, bad, or irrelevant fashion because the truth of the matter is, was it a lie then as it is a lie now? Or was some of it true?
All right.
Or was some of it false? So we don't agree.
Okay. Mr. Davis, let me ask you this. Did you ever see Natalie being involved in any volunteer work?
Who cares?
We were all involved in
No, I mean,
volunteer
no,
work.
please answer my question. Have you ever seen her involved in any volunteer work?
Yes.
We were all involved in volunteer work.
Your
I
Honor,
like him. I like him.
this is
All right, please
I like
answer
him.
the question pertaining to Natalie, if you would, Mr. Davis.
I like him.
Volunteer work requires you to do that because you're doing it for the benefit of others. And therefore, it's hard for me to answer, was it volunteer or not? That's a very subjective question. And although I don't answer it the way you want,
Because was she just trolling for more victims? Like, was she just looking for more victims? Was she trying to look charitable? Like, I would question it. If somebody that I thought was generous and kind, and then comes to find out that they ran a multi-million-dollar, I think it's somewhere. I thought it was like it's over $200 million Ponzi scheme. Okay. I thought it was five, it might be it's over $200 million Ponzi scheme. I would be questioning their altruism because how can you do both of those things? It would make me question it. So I really, this has been my favorite witness so far.
me to, I can tell you subjectively, was it volunteer? I don't know. But I do know there was activity. I don't know if it was volunteer or not.
Your Honor, I move to strike that answer as non-responsive.
The jury's already heard it.
Did Natalie ever help people with her pharmaceutical skills?
Absolutely.
Okay.
She also
Did she ever? Well, maybe you don't agree with me on this, but
that's good.
prior to the events of the federal case, she led a crime-free life, didn't she?
Besides
I have
these.
no idea. She was committing crimes throughout her life.
Okay. But you have no way of knowing whether she was convicted of any crimes prior to the federal conviction.
I'm unaware if she was ever convicted of any
Okay.
crimes.
Okay.
Likely
Now-
not if she was a federal contractor. She never
You
got
were
it.
also friends. I presume you knew her children, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Especially her son.
And her parents. I presume also.
I did know them.
Okay. And yet you testify.
So Natalie's face reminds me, so like I'm gonna try to go back, just like this reminds me of like a teenager that is like mad. That's my like that's what I get from it. But with all that I know of her, I'm seeing her through a lens that already kind of sees her as immature. Like I'm not unbiased. She's not my client. I don't have to be. So that's why I'm clear about the lens I'm looking at her behavior through. Like it seems immature to me. It just does. It just to me personally. All right.
Yet you testified against her in federal court. At her
Yes,
sentencing.
yes, because we were the victims of her Ponzi scheme.
Okay.
And therefore, they requested a victim statement.
And then, were you also her attorney at some point?
I had represented the family on several different occasions.
But after Michael died, you were also with Natalie to obtain some loans as her lawyer, right?
I was not.
No? Okay. But then she filed an ethics complaint against you with the state disciplinary board, right?
Yes, she did.
Okay. Those are never.
The balls, the gonads. I wonder if I can say that on YouTube. I'll find out. After stealing $511,000, you filed the ethics complaint on him. On him, ma'am. I can't. To me, I don't think this is good for the jury because I think he comes across likable. I think he came across as loving his friend. The defense going after him, I don't think that's helpful to the defense. That's just my own personal thought. If I was a jury consultant or like if I was a courtroom consultant, I would be like, pull back. look at the jury's gonna get mad at her for this. Because he's already said, should she get mercy or not? He's leaving that in the jury's hands. Don't go at him to where you want to get him justice too. Because she's not being sentenced for the financial crimes. That's 11 years federal prison. That's already been resolved. We are here for Michael's murder. So
Pleasant.
It was not.
No. Okay.
Are you interested in the outcome?
No, I'm not asking about the
Because it was
outcome.
dismissed.
Of course it was. Then you
Of course it
answered
was.
something that I didn't ask, but that's fine.
You're welcome.
Now, and after all of this, after her perhaps good deeds,
good.
well, was she? Oh, let me ask you one more question. Was she a good mother to her children?
If I believe then what I believed,
No, from your observations.
I mean, if you're asking me as I sat here today in this chair, do I believe she's a good mother to her
No.
children?
No.
That's the
No,
question you're
Mr.
asking me? Or you're asking me, do I
no.
believe she was a good mother
No,
to her children
Mr.
before?
Davis, I just asked you whether you observed her being a good mother to her children.
She killed their father.
Define good mother.
Did she care for them? Did she provide them with food?
Sure.
Did she have a nice relationship with them? All of this that goes into the definition of a good mother.
But not killing the
I
father.
believe under what I thought before during those times, yes.
Okay.
But I don't believe that as I sit here and think now.
I don't.
Because she was conniving financially. She somehow
killed her husband.
was
their
feeding
father.
these children falsely, or what are you testifying to? Because she was doing something
She's convicted of murder.
that was financially horrible
this guy, why does he do this? Okay, so I did not make it through all of his closing argument because he made weird arguments like this. Because he made the argument, how could she kill Michael? Like, because she would have come up to him and been like, I want to kill you, and he would have made sure she didn't. And it's like, that's not how. Oh, do you not watch true crime? What she did was she said, let me inject you with your steroid. Let me do your injection for you. And instead of injecting the steroid, we don't know what happened. We're assuming that she likely injected him with insulin and that he trusted her. She's his wife. Like, the fact that this lawyer isn't reading the room completely blows my mind. Completely blows my mind. Oh my gosh. But I love his voice still. I can't get over his voice.
You're saying you're not sure that she was a good mother to these children from your observation?
I believe exposing your children to what has now occurred and what those folks there affirmed
Yes.
is not a good mother.
Because she allows her son to believe that he could have done so. Like, so the son said, when the son was on the stand, he was like, I would have done anything to save my dad. And his mother did nothing to save his father. Nothing. And she's charged with killing him. So, like, and you're asking me if she's a good mom? Sir, the answer is going to be no. No. You get a divorce. You get, like, don't do that. Cuz I think Michael would have been mad at her once he figured, but I think Michael would have made her stop. And I think she desperately did not want to stop the Ponzi scheme. Just my thoughts.
Okay. So, well, I guess from
So if I did a crime, I wouldn't want my son to be put through being, especially, I know, and so I'm not going to do crimes. Okay, I don't do crimes. I'm not going to do a crime. But let's say I was in a situation and I needed a character witness. My child is never going to be drawn into it. Never. There's nothing. No, my child is gonna, because I'm going to protect my child. To me, my personal thoughts, my personal opinion, the defense, she allowed her defense to use her children to get testimony in that she didn't give. And that breaks my heart. That absolutely breaks my heart. I think Chad Daybell did the same thing. His children got testimony in that he didn't give. And it's just,
from your response to the prosecutor's question, I take it that you're not condemning her to life in prison and to never have a chance to become a person that you knew before the financial scheme, right?
I would not invade the jury's providence to make that decision. I wouldn't do it before, and I won't do it now.
Okay.
They
Well,
don't need me to give them that decision.
Well, thank you for your sincere answer. Thank you.
Redirect.
You were asked if the defendant performed philanthropic acts. Did you ever see Michael do that?
yes.
Absolutely.
Tell us about that.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this line of questioning. Michael's character is not the issue here. It's the defendant's character.
Fair point. I'll withdraw.
All right.
I'll give you the opportunity to address the ethics complaint the defendant filed against you. How did that come to pass?
Once she was sentenced to federal prison, she filed the complaint. It was answered. The evidence was submitted to the state bar, and the state bar dismissed her complaint against me as not being found any evidence to support the same. And it was at that time that, as part of that evidence, The investigation included in that was that this investigation for this case was pending at that time. And there was questions as to whether or not what was really the intent behind it. Whether to
Like, was she trying to make him look less credible as a witness in her criminal case? I get what he's trying to say. I don't know. Hopefully the jury's following it, but that she filed this just to say so that her team could ask about his ethics, like to try to go at his credibility, despite he seems like a person of integrity. I don't know him personally, but like, no, sweet.
try to intimidate witnesses or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
In any event, it didn't work, did it?
No.
It did not.
That's all the questions the state has. Thank you.
Anything further, Mr. Victor?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Would it be possible to have about a 2-minute recess? Please?
Sure.
Fast
And
forward
if
past
you're-
that. 2-minute recess. All right. That's the cool thing about catching up later. Welcome. I'm Dr. Barry. I'm a licensed psychologist. Here I cover the psychological aspects of true crime. All right. This case is heartbreaking. We are listening to the prosecution to the prosecution victim impact statement.
50
I'm gonna go back. I missed a little.
Reporter, would you spell your first and last name, please?
TONIMCCALL.
Thank you. What was your husband's name?
Curtis McCall.
Okay. And when did he pass?
July of 2015.
Aw.
What did he die of?
Leukemia.
How old was he at the time?
58.
I think I also forgot to mention that Natalie faked having cancer. Okay. So like that was another thing. Cause I don't know if that's gonna come up here for them asking how her Tony's husband died, because Natalie faked cancer.
The two of you had some children?
We have 3 children.
3?
3.
What's the mix between boys and girls?
2 boys and 1 girl.
And they are all adults now?
Yes.
If I could have these two marked as states 1 and 2, please.
All right.
It doesn't matter which order you. Natalie 1 and 2. It's the same thing. Let's call ahead you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit 1 and ask you to take a look at that. You
All right.
recognize that document?
Yes.
What is it?
That was the fake scholarship that my son received.
And in fact, I think what's been marked for identification as State 2. Is that the actual document he received? Or
Yes.
One
Yes.
similar to that?
Yes.
You said fake scholarship. Tell us about that, please.
Natalie called me one day and she said that she was doing a scholarship in Mike's memory and that she was given one to Dylan because she knew that Mike would want him to have it.
Can you put a time frame on when that happened?
Let's see, my son graduated in 2019 and it was probably, well, it was before they do the program for the kids that got scholarships at the school, which is closer to the end of the year. So this is probably February, March of 2019, March, April, maybe. I don't remember.
Could have been May.
It could have been.
Okay.
It could have been.
It's a while back.
Okay.
Stage 2, that's actually what your son received, correct?
Yes, but it was big. It was about this big.
Okay.
It was pretty.
Yeah, very pretty.
It was.
Graphically done. Did Dylan ever get any of that money from the scholarship?
No.
Let me shift gears on you a little bit. Your other son's name, what's his name?
His name is Landon Cash, but we call him Cash.
Cash. What kind of relationship did Cash have with Michael Cochran?
He loved Mike. He met Michael in April the year after Curtis passed. So in 2016. Michael immediately took Cash in like one of his own. The whole family did. It was wonderful. You know, I didn't have another father figure for Dylan, but for Cash, I had no worries. Michael was so good to him.
No, Judge, again, we're not talking today about Michael Cochran's character. We're talking about my client. I object.
Could the state respond to that?
Sure.
We're not really talking about.
So like this is victim impact statements. Has this lawyer, like, this is the time to talk about Michael and why Michael, like, this isn't only why she deserved, this isn't all about her. This is also about losing Michael. I've never heard somebody object to something like that. Wow. Okay, we'll keep it going. I'm working on the poll in the background.
Michael's character. We're talking about the loss that this witness and her family experienced because of Michael Cochran being murdered.
The objection's overruled. You may continue.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. McCall.
Cash, that was baseball of that year, was when, you know, he got on Mike's team, and it was a wonderful experience. I mean, Cash loved Michael like a father. He was 9 years old when Curtis passed away, and he was 13 when Mike passed away. Cash has said that losing Mike was like losing his father all over again.
Yeah.
He was devastated. He still has a really hard time talking about it.
Your Honor, we move states 1 and 2 into evidence, and with that, we have no additional questions.
Any objection?
No, sir.
All right, states 1 and 2 are admitted into evidence. Cross-examination.
Ms. McCall, when was the scholarship offered?
The 2019.
Okay. In the spring of 2019?
Yes.
And when was it supposed to be received? For the fall?
Yes. Yes.
Well, did you know, ma'am, that on June the 23rd of 2019, the government froze all of my client's assets and she couldn't give you any scholarship whatsoever? Did you know that? Yes or no? Yes or no?
There's not a yes or no
Well,
answer.
did you know, or do you know?
Then I'll have to say no, because I didn't know that. It was hearsay.
Okay. All right. That's all. Thank you.
No
Anything?
additional questions from the state. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. McCall. You may step down. You are excused. Call your next witness, please, Mr. Truman.
And I don't know if that makes it any better, because the issue
Sorry,
was
they
is
called
that,
Ed Bolt to the stand.
the money was a fraud. They're calling Ed Bolt.
All right, Ms. Akron.
Ah,
Sir, can you please state your name and spell it for the record?
My name is Ed Bolt, EDBOLT.
And do you know the defendant, Natalie Cochran?
Yes, I do.
How do you know her?
She was married to my stepson, Michael. She's my daughter-in-law.
And before Michael passed away, what was your relationship like with the defendant?
We love Natalie. We just thought of her as a daughter.
And just yes or no, do you believe that this jury should grant her mercy in this matter?
No.
And why is that?
Well, I have a statement.
Are those notes that you have done yourself?
Yes, ma'am. That'll maybe answer some of that question if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Today I stand before everyone, a man filled with grief, pain, bitterness, and anxiety. My name is Ed Bolt. I am Michael Cochran's stepfather. The grief that I feel is when I look out our window at the deer stand that Michael had put up at our house after one day of helping me do a lot of demolition work. He put the deer stand up and then he installed a trail camera so he could do some bow hunting. He was really excited. How are we to know that Michael would never set foot in it again? I often go there now. I have put in a memorial bench there and keep that site clear to brush so we can just sit under that big oak tree and reflect on what could have been. The pain of no more birthday wishes, Christmas holidays, listening to his plans for the future, all taken away. Michael was always up for the challenges, always wanting to accomplish so much, whether it was starting his own businesses, ambitions to become a pilot, entering tough man contest, or just doing DIY projects around his home. February 11th, 2025 will be 6 years since Michael's murder. A cold-blooded, calculated, unremorseful murder.
Yep.
Michael's murder has been referred to as a diabolical act of evil. I miss him. I miss, hey, buddy, what's going on? What are you up to? Seems like a small thing, but it's the small things that I cherish most. I think of Michael every day. Where there is life, there is hope. Michael was full of life. When you hear the saying, live your life to the fullest, that image of Michael would be beside of it. Michael was a husband, a father, a son-in-law, a coach, a mentor, a hunter, a fisherman, and a lover of life. He had a tireless work ethic, always willing to help at any time. But most importantly, Michael had integrity. I've used these words, had and was, several times in describing Michael.
Your Honor, I hate to interrupt. May I have, again, continuous objection?
Oh, I want to call him Gru because I think he's trying to break the emotion with the jury. So sometimes defense will object, but it's more to get, I don't know. Like, I remember I'm not a lawyer, but in looking at the psychology of it, the objection now could be to try to get the jury's attention for a moment and take it off of what he's saying, because what he's saying is very powerful. I hope the the jurors remember that the state did not interrupt any of the people's statements about Natalie. They let them go on and on about all the amazing, wonderful things, how selfless she is, how kind, generous. They let them go on, and the defense keeps interrupting as they try to honor Michael. And if I was a juror, I would have an issue with it.
This line of statements.
Continue, please, Mr. Bolt.
Thank you.
This one.
Why? It's because Michael is no longer with us. Michael died a horrible death,
Yep.
tormented and tortured and deceived by his wife. Where there is life, there is hope. Michael was full of life, but wasn't given any hope.
Mm.
This became very clear in Michael's hospital room.
Oh.
There was full of a lot of people. The nursing staff was going to remove the ventilator tube from Michael. Prior to this, the preacher says, "It won't be long now." What did he mean? Where was his hope? We had hope. The nursing staff went to work. All tubes removed. Michael was breathing on his own. Praise God, praise God. You should have seen the look on his wife's face, not of joy, but of disbelief. It was very painful for his mother, who had become overwhelmed with emotion. She was told to leave the room by this preacher because he said she was being disruptive. This is her son. Evil has many faces, shapes, and images. Evil must be held accountable. Natalie Cochran must be held accountable. Life in prison for a premeditated murder may seem fair, but what I think is just would be to take a rope over here to the courthouse, throw it over the branch of that big oak tree.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can't
Right.
say that, sir.
Yes, I agree.
So let's just send her to jail.
I understand. But yeah, that was an appropriate objection. He can't say that. She was not charged with capital, and so he could not say that.
Remove her from society. Let the state take care of her. From jail, she will not be able to harm anyone ever again.
I agree.
Should I continue to be bitter and let it consume me? Will a life sentence in prison be enough? This is where the anxiety rises up in me. This diabolical plan has now been brought to light. There is no amount of justice that will bring Michael back. Yes, I have written his victim's impact statement, but I'm not the victim. Michael is.
Yeah.
Can you believe that this is the second impact statement that I've had to write about the evil, the lies and deception caused by this worker of manipulation? Natalie Cochran is the face of evil. It appears all to be good on the outside, but what lies on the inside is pure evil. She is in federal prison now doing time where she deceived and lied to Donna and I about her financial scheme, stole money from us and other victims in this community.
I object to any more litigation of money and laundering and
I think it goes to her character, but I'm a member, not a lawyer, not a judge. We'll see what the judge says.
financial schemes.
Overruled.
Yeah.
Continue, Mr. Bolt.
Natalie Cochran has never, ever shown any remorse, never asked him for any forgiveness, or even said she is sorry. Evil is around us every day. We must stay aware. Was Michael aware of the evil all around him? Evil raised her ugly head and took Michael's life. This was an evil act which took place and not the will of God. God never wills evil. Your Honor, don't let another person get hurt. Don't let another family go through this. don't give Natalie Cochran any satisfaction.
That's
Nothing short of life in prison with no mercy. This would be justice for Michael. And in closing, I'd like to dedicate this statement to Michael. I would like to thank the prosecutor and his team, the investigators for exposing this evil, and to your honor for remaining on this case. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
No questions.
Cross-examination.
Tread lightly.
When did you become Michael's stepfather?
1990, Dawn and I were married in 1990, August the 20th of 1990. Michael was about 8 years old. Yeah.
Okay. Is it true, sir, that throughout your marriage to Ms. Bolt, Michael did not have any contact with you for about 6 or 7 years in 2000s?
To me, his statement was powerful, and the defense would have been good to just say, no further questions. But that's just, remember, not a lawyer. I wouldn't have asked him anything else. The jury likely feels sorry for him. And I think what he said was really powerful. And Mr. Grew, that's not his real name. That's my nickname for him. He's going to look like a bully, in my opinion, going after, trying to challenge the closeness of his relationship with his stepson. Like, I don't like this at all. But
Is that true or not?
About,
Yes or no?
no,
No?
I wouldn't say that's a correct statement.
Well, he always lived with you, both of you?
Yes, until he started college.
Okay. Is it true that for the last 10 years of his life, he saw you, maybe you and your wife, he saw you only during the holidays?
sometimes that happens.
We saw each other.
And even if that was true, that doesn't make their relationship any less significant. So my dad, so I'm not going live on Saturday because I'm going to hang out with family. So I'm thinking my dad is most likely going to be in town. And so no stream this Saturday. But I see my dad maybe once or twice a year, but that does not negate my closeness, my love. He texts me every single day. My dad texts me his cycling every single day. And so I don't like how this feels, but we're gonna let it continue.
During the holidays for sure, and I'm sure there was times in between.
Well, why wasn't he with you 24/7 other than being in college when he was already working?
This is a weird
Well,
question.
Michael grew up. That's what you do. You nurture a
Michael
child
grew
along,
up.
you get them out on their feet and
It's a weird question.
hope that you've done the right thing and made a path for them.
Did he show up for Christmas of 2018?
2018,
No.
no.
Was he there for Thanksgiving 2018?
No, we usually had Thanksgiving at Michael and Natalie's house. So he was probably there if we had Thanksgiving there.
Sir, would it be fair to say that all that vengeance is mine?
But so if the state objected now, it would make it, to me, it would make it look like they were upset about something that the defense was getting at, and letting the defense just dig this hole. So to me, the defense is making it worse for themselves. I don't think the defense has handled these victims well. The victim impact statements, I personally don't think this has been handled well. Now, I think they're doing what Natalie wants. So I think their client likely wants them to try to make the people look less credible. I think they are doing what their client wants. I don't think it's going to play well with the jury. That's just my own thoughts.
Attitude is based upon your very limited relationship with Michael because he did not really care to be in your house.
I would say that's an inaccurate
No?
statement.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay.
Very briefly, Your Honor. Mr. Bolt, who was the reason that Michael didn't have such close contact with you towards the end of his life?
Is it Natalie?
Well, Donna and Natalie would always text. I mean, they arranged everything. And what Donna would tell me that Natalie would say, well, Michael's not feeling well. He's not doing very good. But then we would just leave it at that.
So the source was the defendant.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
No further questions.
So the state believes.
So now we're learning that you didn't have such a great relationship, but it's of course Natalie Cochran.
Oh my gosh, dude, he could have just not said anything. It's fine. So the prosecution feels that Natalie was the one isolating Michael from his family and discouraging that contact, which could be
Cochran's fault, right?
I would say that's a true statement. Yes.
Right. And yet you're coming here asking for justice, as you call it, against this evil, acting like you've had this wonderful relationship with the man who was doing all these wonderful things around your house. And I'm sorry, sir, but you didn't, did you?
This is rude.
Well,
It's mean.
I could point to these shoes that I'm wearing here now. Michael bought me
I don't
these
care about
shoes.
your shoes, sir.
Okay.
Tell me what
I think we had a very good relationship, being that I wasn't like his father. I was a stepfather.
This is
And yet you're asking this jury to give her no mercy.
Yes.
Even though you claim to be, well, I take it, very religious person.
Well, I'm not so much a
No?
religious person. I wouldn't put that handle on myself.
You don't believe in power of forgiveness and second chances, do you?
Justice.
Sure.
Sure.
Justice.
All right, that's all.
Anything, Ms. Aker?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bolt. You may step down. You are excused.
So painful. Okay.
Call your next witness, please.
Your Honor, the state calls Donna Bolt to the stand.
His mom. We're gonna get ready. Okay, make sure to breathe, grab some water. If y'all haven't noticed, I ate a snack. Like, take care of yourself. Especially if you've been here for 2 hours. Okay, this is Michael's mom. And defense, you better sit
Okay.
down. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Like I'm trying to not interrupt.
You'll raise your right hand, please, ma'am. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
You may have a seat right there.
I object to this. Your Honor. This is to inflame the jury.
Your Honor, these are pictures of Michael Cochran while he was alive. If anything was inflammatory, it was the photos of his autopsy shown during the trial.
Has not been introduced any evidence. We have absolutely no reason to bring these exhibits to court. I move to remove them.
These are demonstrative exhibits, Your Honor.
No, so I've always the state is able to present pictures of the victim when they were alive. What? Oy.
They don't need to be moved into evidence.
No, they are only here to inflame the jury. Nothing.
I don't think I can permit these to be displayed. I'm fearful that
Wow.
prejudicial value would outweigh any probative
Wow.
intent. They haven't been admitted,
Wow. Oh, but they're already there. So the jury can already see them. So they already have the pictures there and they're just going to take them down. Okay. So the juries can see these pictures and they're going to have to take the pictures down. I can see this picture of Michael. There are two stands, and and so the judge is going to ask them to take it down. Okay.
I think that they need to be taken down.
Yes, Your Honor.
No.
Of course, the jury can unsee what the jury saw, Your Honor, but I ask at least for an instruction to disregard these.
All right, members of the jury, I've disallowed these photographs, blown-up pictures to be considered, so you should disregard them, please. You may proceed now, Ms. Akers.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Donna Bolt, Donna Bolt. I'm Michael Cochran's mother.
And in saying that, how do you know the defendant, Natalie Cochran?
Natalie Cochran was my daughter-in-law, and we loved her very much. She was married to Michael for almost 19 years.
Could you briefly just explain for the jury what sort of relationship you had with the defendant before Michael passed away?
When they got married, well, she knows this. Michael went off to WVU to go to college in 1999. She was supposed to went to Concord, but she changed her major and went to WVU. Michael Brandon and I went up to Morgantown several times to find him a place to live. I didn't want him to live on campus. So we found a mobile home for him to live in it's like an elderly care mobile home park. And Michael had a 1988 Jeep that he was driving back and forth. And so we went to school up there. He was going up there to play baseball. But what had happened was that he changed his major a few times. And I guess finally at the end, he decided he wanted to be an information technology major. And that was running, cable wire, computer wiring. And that he went to school for 4 years up there. Natalie, she followed him up there. She was supposed to have been staying in the dorm. But next thing I knew, they were kind of cohabitating in the mobile home. And that wasn't supposed to happen. That was not the plan. So what had happened every time we went up to go see Michael, he would say, Mom, he said, you can't come up this weekend. He said, Natalie's family's up here. They're going to ball games. So, we didn't get to come up. And a lot of times when we did get to come up, Natalie would head back home to Daniels to her family's home. So, we bought this trailer for Michael to go, to live in while he was in school. And, let's see, in the fall of 1999, we paid for Michael's first year of school, fall and spring. And in November of 1999.
I'm sorry, but the witness is rambling right now. There is no rhyme or reason to this story, and all of.
And yet, what in the world? Does he not realize that this is the sentencing phase? So maybe I'm not, because this is the sentencing phase of should Natalie get mercy or not. But let's hear about Michael and his story. Let's see what the judge says.
This history of the familiar relationship is irrelevant.
Well, I think that she is setting forth a timeline, and I'll permit it for the purpose of this hearing. You can continue.
Thank you,
Ms.
sir.
Bolt.
In November of 1999, I received a phone call from Natalie. She was at the mobile home in Morgantown. And she said, guess what? I said, what? She said, well, Michael and I got engaged. I said, what? She said, yeah. She said, are you mad? I said, no, let me speak to Michael. And Michael got on the phone and I said, Michael Brandon, what in the world are you doing? You're not even 19 years old yet. So that right there kind of caused friction between Natalie and me. I didn't like her. They were too young, and I wanted them to wait.
Later in life, did you have a more positive relationship with the defendant?
We did, but I'd like to explain a little bit about, when they got married. They got married in May. 2020. Now, what had happened before that May of 2020, Natalie Cochran.
First of all, it is non-responsive answer. Second of all, I think we've laid enough background here. This is a sentencing phase. This is not a history of the Cochran family, Your Honor. I'm sorry, but I object to this.
All right, please move on.
I do have a statement that I would like to read. Okay.
Do you believe that this defendant deserves mercy in this matter?
No, I do not,
Can you tell the jury why you believe she doesn't deserve mercy?
because she didn't give Michael any mercy. She let him lay on the floor for hours and hours at the home. She let him lay on the couch, and she never got him any help. When he did go to Raleigh General Hospital, they put him on the ventilator and stuck it in his arms.
I'm going to object. We're trying the case, and this witness has no personal knowledge of this.
No, I'll permit it. Overruled. Go ahead.
And then from Raleigh General, she texts me at 10:30 that night, sends me pictures of Michael Brandon. Can I hold him up? Okay.
Was that the first time that you found out that Michael was sick?
Yes, 10:30 that night. It was on a Wednesday night, February 6th. She said, this is how I found him. Found him in the floor in the kitchen of their home. And then she sent me another picture, and he was on the ventilator at Raleigh General Hospital. And he had tubes all in him, and like I said, on the ventilator. She sent me another picture as the Jane Care ambulance is transporting him from one bed to their stretcher to take him on to CAMC. And then later on that night, she sent me another picture of Michael Brandon in the ICU at CAMC.
Okay. So that is straight torment. Okay. I have seen a loved one on a ventilator, and I was scared. I was not sure if they were going to make it. Their parent was there, and my loved one was conscious, and I asked them, do you want your mom and dad to come in? And my loved one said no, because you can't speak. Someone on a ventilator, that is one of the scariest. It is an image. I did not take any pictures of my loved one on that ventilator. I would not wish, you only do it for life-saving measures, only if you need to. I did not sleep well the next, I don't think I slept at all. So my loved one was able to come off the ventilator within 2 to 3 hours, but still I would not take pictures. And I made sure that my loved one's parents did not see them that way. My loved one was conscious and was able to communicate that. But if they weren't conscious, I would have done my best, or I would have prepared them. It's bad. It looks really, really bad. And so I agree with the chat. I think I think she was trying to get sympathy or something. That is, oh, the cursey words are wanting to come.
See on the ventilator. Now I want you to understand, Natalie Cochran, she texted me. She said, they won't let you come down. She said, they won't let you in at CAMC. She said, only me. She said, but I'll keep you updated. She would, throughout the night, I would text her. Couldn't go to sleep. I would text her, what's his vital signs? What's his blood work? She finally, the next morning, I was able to get up there. But on my way up there, she stopped me and texted me and told me, she said she needed a phone charger for her phone. And then she told me, she sent me to the wrong hospital. She sent me to, there's 2 CAMC. She sent me to the other one. And then finally, I was able to get there on time. When I walked in, Michael Brandon was on the ventilator, laying in his hospital bed. Natalie Cochran was there. I was with her all day long that day. And that evening, that afternoon, she sat over in the corner on her laptop and on her cell phone while I was at Michael's bed, at the head of his bed. She sent me government contracts to my cell phone. And then, she even made a comment that day. She said, I gave him a bath last night, and I pinched his balls as hard as I could.
No.
And he didn't even respond.
No.
And then I heard her say one more thing for that day. She said, I let him lay on the couch for 7 hours. And I screamed at her. I said, 7 hours? What do you mean you let him lay on the couch for 7 hours?
So what about the loss of your son caused by this defendant leads you to believe that she does not deserve mercy?
Well, she's going to say that we never had a relationship with Michael Brandon, but she's wrong. She's a liar.
She is.
We'd all the time go down there. Michael Brandon would come up to the house and we would do things together, even before he even got with her. Michael Brandon and I had a really good relationship. We had a close bond. When he married her, she started pulling him away. She wouldn't let us come around or anything. And then she would, like I said, you've heard family vacations with her side of the family. She wouldn't, she never involved us. She never wanted Michael or her to be around anybody on our side of the family.
Is there anything else that you think this jury needs to hear before they make their decision?
Yes, I do. On Saturday, this was like, he went to the hospital on February the 6th, which was a Wednesday. Okay, on Saturday, February the 9th, she had everybody around the room. And she said that, they're going to pull the ET tube or the ventilation tube. And they pulled the tube. She thought he was going to die right away. He did not die. He was breathing on his own. Later on that evening, it was myself, my husband, Eddie, and Michael's dad, Mike. And Natalie was there by Michael's bed. And I was at Michael's head. And the little young male nurse came in. And he started doing it's what's called a Glasgow coma scale to see if Michael will react. And see, I'm a retired nurse, so I know this. He would take a lab tube, and he pushed on Michael's finger.
I object to all that medical testing. I really do. This is nothing. Has nothing to do with the sentencing. Nothing to do with her feelings. This is the description to inflame the jury.
I'm going to permit it. This is not technical medical testimony. It's what this witness observed. You can continue, Ms. Bolt.
Thank you, sir. So the young male nurse, like I said, he was pushing on Michael's fingernail. And then he pushed on Michael's toenail. And Michael jerked his arm and his leg back. Then he went around to Michael's other side where I was standing, and he rubbed his finger, his fist into Michael's chest like a sternal rub. And Michael Brandon raised up out of the bed, and he opened up his eyes. Now, if you look over at Natalie Cochran, instead of being so happy, she looked horrified. Her mouth dropped over.
Any of this, the witness has no personal knowledge of any of this.
I absolutely do.
She was there.
She was present, and these are her observations, and I think it's pertinent. The court will overrule the objection, and I'll give the defense a running objection and preserve all exceptions. You may continue, Ms. Bolt.
I was there. I saw it. And what Natalie did after that, we were so happy. We were just thanking God, because I kept telling Michael, I know you're in there. I know you're in there. And then he opened up his eyes. And what the male nurse did next is he walked around the bed and went over to Natalie. And he whispered in her ear, I have to chart this. And Natalie shook her head, yes. Later on that morning, we were so happy. We were going home thinking Michael was going to get another MRI because that was what, if there was any changes, he was supposed to get another MRI of his brain. So we were so happy. And about mid-morning, Natalie texted me and she had moved him to another room. She had moved him out of the ICU into just a regular, ordinary room. And we couldn't understand that. The next day, this was Sunday, the 10th of February of 2019.
So in the ICU, you get checked more regularly. Once again, I had a loved one in the ICU. I was there. The staff, I think they have to check more frequently. There are a ton of monitors, and there's normally, I think the staff ratio is smaller in the ICU because these individuals need more. It's the intensive care unit. That's what the ICU is. And so moving him to a regular room, he would get less care. He would have less support. And so that's red flag number 12.
And we were on our way down there. Natalie told us not to come. She said she was going to take him to hospice house. And we couldn't understand that because he should have had another MRI because he had a change in his status. So what had happened now was that we waited all day, and Natalie kept saying, the ambulance is coming, the ambulance is coming. And what happened then was Natalie, about 8 o'clock that evening, we waited all day for Natalie to get Michael to hospice house. And 8 o'clock that evening, the preacher, Sam Green from Bible Baptist Church, called us and said that Michael had arrived at the hospice house to come now. It won't be long. So we rushed to the hospice house to see Michael Brandon. You know, Michael Brandon's, his breathing status had changed. They had given him something at CAMC before he traveled there.
Hang on a second. May I approach the witness?
Certainly.
I think they're just
My
going
what?
to give her some directions.
It's 8 pages. Can I read some of it? Well, I told a lot of it.
Let me ask you what that is, Ms. Bold. Is that your victim's impact
It
statement?
sure is, sir.
Okay. Is there some way you can summarize that? I heard you say it was 8 pages.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had a lot to say.
That's all right. I don't mean
This
to
is
cut
the
you
first
off at
time.
all, but in the interest of time.
So, I would want to talk for this is my baby. I would want to talk for hours and hours. Okay. Like, to me, she's taking an appropriate amount of time. This is her son. Okay. The defense took all morning. Now, I don't know. It's just, this is hard.
I'm an efficiency. Is there some way you could perhaps focus upon the aspect of the defendant's character?
Yes, sir. When she put Michael Brandon in hospice house and we went in to see him, he had already turned ashen gray. The nurse was coming in every 15 minutes, giving him medicine, one medicine after the other. We were crying. Natalie was over there. It'll be okay. He died at 12:18 a.m. on Monday morning, February the 11th. 2 days later, Natalie had a funeral for Michael Brandon. We would ask if we could have this person or that person to come. She would tell us no. So on the day of the funeral, the only ones that were allowed to come was myself and my husband, Eddie, and Michael's dad from Michael Brandon. That's all she would allow to come.
Ms. Bold, I know that you have a statement that you've written, and as the judge said, we know that it's rather long.
Yes.
Could you just summarize that for us, especially with regard to the defendant's character and why you think she doesn't deserve mercy?
Yeah. After Michael died, we tried, we had suspicions and we tried not to, do anything because we wanted a relationship with our grandkids. In June of 2019, Nicole, she wouldn't respond to me anymore. And MAC, in August of 2019, he sent me a text and he said, "Don't bother me anymore. I'm going to block you. You don't love us anymore. We know that now." So we haven't had any relationship with Michael's kids since June.
I hope the kids, and the people in their lives would probably whisk them out to not hear this part. I hope they go back and hear this, because I think their grandparents love them. I think their grandparents would love to be in their life. And it's just the hope in me. I hope they're able to reconcile, because we'll see what the jury says. Over 80% of my audience, and Court TV has a poll running as well, with over 2,000 votes, almost 3,000 votes, and they're at 83% no mercy too. But these are true crime people, so I feel like true crime, we tend to be a little bit more like no mercy. I don't know. So, but my heart breaks for her because she not only lost her son, she's also losing her grandkids that are still here, but are being cut off from her, or that have chosen to distance themselves from her. Similar to the Daybell kids, that I hoped that they would reconnect with their safe family. and cut off Chad. Just my own personal thoughts.
In August of 2019. After Michael died, after Michael was murdered, Natalie Cochran, like I said, sent me contracts while I was standing at Michael's bedside in February. In February the 22nd and the 24th and 28th, she sent me text messages. She said they are state contracts. She said they have affidavits. This was a total of 3 contracts for an amount of $28,000. She said because they have affidavits, she said they will pay you. I guarantee.
Your Honor, I hate to object. And I know that I have a continuing objection, but this is not a summary of what the court asked.
This is her
What is
character.
happening?
Perhaps, Ms. Bolt, you can kind of relate things and focus upon character issues. And you can take a minute to review your statement. I see that it's typewritten and it's
Yes, sir.
pretty lengthy. So perhaps you can just pick out some portions that relate directly to the defendant's character.
He lies, manipulates, steals, murders.
Okay. Can I go now?
Yes, ma'am.
Since Michael's murder, Natalie Cochran's evil and sinister deeds have caused overwhelming damage and wrought on our lives and so many good and decent lives, lives that will forever cast a shadow of sadness. Michael Brandon was my only son, and I loved him and so adored him. I struggle every day. I struggle every day to make sense of what has no answers. The murder of my son is crushing, and yet I must try and move forward to honor his memory. Today, as we approach 6 years since Michael's murder, February 11th, 2019, we as a family have had to endure the glacial process of prosecuting Natalie Page Cochran for murdering our Michael Brandon while we also mourn his death. To this day, this vile being has showed no remorse, none whatsoever. Natalie Cochran and her family have never said they were sorry. We have no choice but to watch in the courtroom with repulsion as she smiles and banters with her family and friends.
Yes.
Just like she doesn't have a care in the world.
Yes.
I was shocked to hear the testimony that Natalie's parents only lost $76,000 and her sister Penny only lost about $50,000. She stole $250,000 from us. And she stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from her other victims as well. We, along with our family and friends, have sat quietly and graciously and painfully watched and listened as Michael's good name has been murdered time and time again by those who publicly defend this murderer.
Yep.
Think of the horrific invasion of Michael's and our dignity and privacy. At what point and at what time do we seek sleeping at night? Is Michael Brandon resting in peace?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
We, as Michael Brandon's mom and stepdad, we respectfully ask this court in the memory of our beloved and precious son, Michael Brandon Cochran, to delay for as long as judicially allowed the day that this quote cold-blooded murderer once again walks among us. In a pure world, light should never shine on that day. Evil, for reasons only evil knows, took it upon herself to steal from us and the world. We take comfort as best we can in believing our Michael, our beautiful, intelligent, kind-hearted Michael, is waiting for us in God's heavenly mansion in the air. We ask this court that Natalie Cochran be sentenced to life in the state prison for the rest of her natural life, with no pardon, no mercy, and no deals. This evil, narcissistic sociopath intentionally and knowingly pre-planned and committed first-degree premeditated murder, stealing the life of our son, Michael Brandon Cochran, at the young age of 38. To the court, Natalie Cochran will speak at her sentencing today because she has to have the last word.
Mm.
The simple truth is that while growing up, and even as an adult, this spoiled, evil, narcissistic murderer had seldom, if ever, been denied this which she wanted. The word no was not spoken or heard of in her world. She will try to blame my precious son Michael for her evilness and deceit. Natalie may even shed a tear or two, but we have now come to know that every word coming out of Natalie Cochran's mouth will just be another lie, and her tears will be fake tears trying to get sympathy from your court. Natalie is going to use Michael's children to get sympathy here today. She tried to do that with their testimonies during the trial. Judge, please don't fall for her con. That's what Natalie does. She only cares about herself. She will use, abuse, and manipulate anyone to get in her way. But we know the real Natalie Cochran, the thief, the liar, the taker of life, and the doer of evil deeds. I was told that Natalie Cochran was telling the community that we didn't raise Michael Brandon, that he was raised by his grandparents. That's just another lie. Michael Brandon even told Natalie in his presence and in my presence at a funeral, "Don't you ever put me in hospice." Michael had seen his grandfather, as his adopted grandfather whom he loved, H.B. Lewis, suffer that way. But what did she do? She went against his wishes and put him in hospice. This has been a very long and traumatic process for us, with all of the court delays and continuances. We have never given up, and we have been Michael Brandon's advocate and his voice. We have been waiting almost 6 years for justice for Michael. Throughout these 6 years, we have had to just sit back and be silent while Natalie gives newspaper and media interviews about my precious son, Michael, and her statements about what happened on February 6, 2019, and the incidences leading up to his death. The media will not try this case. All of the evidence and the proven facts and her conviction are enough to sentence Natalie Cochran to life in prison with no mercy. We've kept quiet as Natalie continues to blame Michael for her evilness that did not stop even after his death. While my son lay on the hospital on the ventilator, Natalie Cochran texted me government contracts on my phone. Believing and trusting her because she was our beloved daughter-in-law and because we loved her, Natalie manipulated us once again. Michael is not here to defend himself, but we are here. We are standing up for him and speaking for Michael and ourselves and asking the court for justice. We ask that you please, please, no mercy. She never gave Michael any mercy.
Thank you very much. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, cross-examination.
I just have one or two questions. Ms. Bolt, you testified that you were not allowed in the ICU.
She told me
At first.
that I could not come.
At first.
Okay. Did you know that there was only one person allowed in the
You
ICU?
switch.
I could have come and stayed in the
Ma'am,
waiting room.
I didn't ask you.
You can switch. So that's what when my family member, we could have two family members in the ICU. This was 2019. And every hospital has different rules. Because we had to switch out two family members. And our ICU was really kind because I wasn't supposed to stay the night because this happened. This was COVID time. I had a mask on. It wasn't COVID, like it wasn't 2020. I think it was 2021, I think. And I asked a nurse, I was like, can I stay the night? And she was like, let me go ask. And she never came back. So I just stayed. And so this was I'm so glad that she's speaking out for Michael, and I wanted to make sure that we hear Michael's voice. Wow.
Do that. I just asked you whether you knew that there was only one person allowed in the ICU.
I don't believe that, sir.
No, that's not my question. What you believe, ma'am? My question is whether you knew that there was only one person allowed in the ICU.
It always comes from Natalie. No, you can't come.
Ma'am, did you know that there was only one person allowed at the ICU?
That's not true, Mr.
Your Honor.
That's not true, sir.
I asked a simple question.
Wait till he asks the question. Pose the question again, please, Mr.
Did you
Victor.
know that there was only one person allowed in the ICU? Yes or no, ma'am?
No,
Now, did you know that your son had a living will to go to the hospice and be taken off life support? Did you know that or not?
I know you said he never wanted to go to
Ma'am,
hospice.
did you know that?
Who
I
signed?
no.
can tell you that, Natalie.
Do we know that it was
Your
a
Honor,
church?
I'm sorry. The witness is addressing my client. I object to this, and I would like an answer.
All right, pose the question again, and then try to answer the question, please, Ms.
Yes, sir.
Ball.
Ma'am,
Ask-
did you know that Michael had a living will to go to hospice and be taken off life support if need be?
No,
No, okay. Now, you testified that you haven't seen your grandchildren, right? For what, 5 years?
they wouldn't have anything to do with us.
I didn't ask you that, ma'am. I just asked you whether you testified that you haven't seen your children since 2019.
The grandchildren,
Grandchildren, I'm sorry. Grandchildren since 2019, right?
June and August of 2019.
Okay,
They stopped responding.
okay. What kind of contact did you try to have with them?
Tried to text them and they blocked us.
Okay, how frequently did you text them, ma'am?
When you get blocked, sir, you don't go around them. They don't
No,
want to have
no, no,
anything to do with it.
prior to being blocked, ma'am.
Prior to being blocked, we had a lot of relationships with them.
Okay,
After Michael died, we were trying to keep a good relationship with them.
and so you're telling us that all of a sudden, these two children, who in 2019 were relatively young, all of a sudden stopped communicating with you by blocking you?
I wonder if this was around the time Natalie was being investigated for fraud, because I think everybody realized that $250,000, because so Michael's mom and stepdad lost, according to what she said, $250,000. And so I could see some like using the children as flying monkeys, like doing a smear campaign against the family. Like I could see that happening. Now I did not hypothesize, what type of diagnosis Natalie might have. The people that knew her well, after all of this, they realized that she only cared about herself. She portrayed herself to be something that she was not. And yeah, wow.
Yes,
All right. And you attributed to Natalie Cochran,
yes,
who prohibited them from having any contact with you.
yes, what they've been told.
Okay, what they've been told. You have absolutely no clue what she told them, do you?
You don't either.
Ma'am, Your Honor,
Just please, Ms. Bolt. just
Yes, sir,
answer
I'm
the
sorry.
question.
Yes, sir.
you have no clue what she told them, do you? Do you?
I can pretty much
Ma'am.
guess.
You don't know,
I'm not going to answer that yes or no, sir.
Your Honor.
Please answer it yes or no.
Yes.
It's a relatively simple question,
Okay.
Ms. Bolt.
So you asked me. Ask it again, sir.
Whether you're not,
Just
Your
move on.
Honor, I'll withdraw this question.
Thank you.
All right.
That's all I want.
Anything further, Ms. Akers?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Bolt.
Thank
may
you, sir.
sit down.
I think her written statement was more powerful than her just talking. So when they directed her to just go to her written statement, I think her written statement was more powerful than than the stuff she was just saying. So, okay. All right, let's see who we have next.
The state will call is Robert Heinzman.
Robert Heinzman.
Sir, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Robert Heinzman.
Remind us who you are, please.
Robert Heinzman. I was one of the two investigators on this case.
Cool.
I did the financial crimes investigation primarily.
And you're being called here today to discuss from your investigation the issues of character of the defendant, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Tell the jury from your investigation what you can enlighten them about concerning the defendant.
I'm going to object and ask that we approach the bench on this one.
Okay.
I think the judge is going to allow it. because they're trying to portray her as a saint that volunteers. She also ran a multi-million-dollar Ponzi scheme. Over $200 million from family and friends and other investors.
Trooper Heinzman, the focus here of an investigation was concerning the financial aspect, but you did work on the murder case too, did you not?
Yes, sir, I did.
Tell a jury what you know about the fake scholarship.
The scholarships that we located during our analysis of records and through our investigation, they were issued at two different locations. One was at Shady Spring High School, and the second location was Independence High School. Those were issued on about May 4th and then May 7th. The second one on May 7th, on about May 7th, that was actually at Independence High School. And in that particular instance, Natalie Cochran called Donna and Eddie Bolt and asked them to take her there to Independence High School to present that scholarship or those scholarships. What was unique about the scholarships in general.
Object on another ground, and again, we need to approach the bench on something completely different this time.
Okay.
Oh. Grew, you're slowing us down.
Mr. Truman.
Thank you, Your Honor. States one for purposes of this phase of the trial. What is that?
That is a list of all the scholarships that were issued. Some of those were at Shady Spring and the others were at Independence High School.
And this is after Michael Cochran's death, correct?
It was after Michael Cochran's death. It was the unique timing of the issuance of these scholarships came after Natalie Cochran had been contacted by law enforcement, particularly Lieutenant Bledsoe. So she knew at this point there was an investigation into Michael's death as well as into her the financial doings of the business that she purported to run. So these were actually issued after that.
At the time of the search warrant, officers seized a number of things, including documents, correct?
That's correct.
Did one of them involve the potential sale of the business TSG?
Yes, there were documents suggesting that.
So she was trying to sell the fraudulent business, which would give all the debts to this new person that would have no idea that it's all a fraud. But I don't think it would survive an audit. I don't think a financial audit, because she didn't have the money. Wow, she tried to sell the Ponzi scheme.
From the documents that you seized under the federal search warrant, what were the terms of that, of the sale?
To put it in context, we executed the search warrant on June 25th of 2019. I was not on scene at the search warrant. Lieutenant Bledsoe called me and said they had discovered some documents, and he asked.
Now I'm going to object on hearsay grounds, and second of all, I'm going to object perhaps differently on the relevance ground. What does that have to do with the sentencing of the defendant at this point?
We're going to get to that.
Well, Lieutenant Bledsoe is here, I see. If we need for him to testify, he can. And presumably, Mr. Truman will get to the point described. So let's go forward. I'll overrule the objection. Continue, Mr. Truman.
The business was to be sold based upon documents seized under the search warrant.
Natalie Cochran was attempting to sell off this business at that time.
What was the gross price for the business?
She was attempting to sell the business for $4.9 million to a local businessman.
And a local businessman, did they do anything to further the sale?
Yes.
A deposit, that kind
yes.
of? Tell us about that.
This entire thing occurred over a 6-day period prior to the execution of the search warrant. Her and this individual had met and he agreed on buying a partnership interest of this business. And she contacted him a day after, 1 to 2 days afterwards, and said that she needed a deposit placed on his purchase interest, a $50,000 deposit. And he wired her $50,000 the day before the search warrant was executed.
49% of the business that the purchaser was buying What kind of assets was the purchaser purchasing?
This buyer was led to believe he was buying a 49% interest in the business, and assets that had been described to him that were associated with the business. He had been told that there was a fleet of vehicles, that there was an airplane that was an asset of the vehicle.
There might have been.
And other business assets that they had at that time, the business location on Eisenhower Drive, and any other assets associated with the business.
Essentially, what was this business worth?
Negative. It was in debt.
The business did have assets, as I described before. The business on paper was real. They had a building that was bought for business purposes. So it was not worth 4.9 million. It would have been worth whatever the building and any true assets that did not have any liabilities or debts owed on those assets. That's what it would have been. So it would have been, I don't want to place a number, but well under 50,000 that he paid as a deposit on the business.
Did that sale go through?
No, it did not.
Tell us why.
I received a phone call to verify if I had uncovered any documents relating to the sale of this business. And I said, no, my side of the investigative team was out doing interviews of witnesses and investors. I drove to this business person's house to speak with them and see if what the nature of this business transaction was. I spoke with him over the phone, and he explained to me that he had been contacted by Natalie Cochran approximately 7 days prior, and told him that she believed that, or she had been told that he was interested in buying the business, and then she facilitated that transaction.
So the $4.9 million deal that never got fully executed, what time frame are we talking about?
This was June 25th, 2019, when I made contact and told this individual not to wire any more money to her.
And that's because why?
It's fraud.
Because we had determined at that point that the business was fraudulent, the contracts were fraudulent, there was no money, there was nothing for him to purchase.
And that was a substantial time after Michael Cochran's murder, correct?
That is correct. That is conduct that continued on after his death.
That's all the questions the state has.
So do we really think that she would stop criming if she gets out? And so that's where, if I was on the jury, I don't know. I would personally vote no mercy in a situation like this. Like, she has shown no remorse. She might give a statement. We'll see. I think she might give a statement. We'll see.
All right, cross-examination.
Mr. Heinzman, would you agree with me, sir, that the sum total of your testimony is that after Michael Cochran's death, the defendant, Ms. Cochran, was committing the acts of fraud?
Yes.
She continued the fraud after his death, yes.
Yes. You have another question?
Haven't we established that already?
Sure. But that was your question.
That she was a fraud?
Yes. Business was a fraud. It was a Ponzi scheme.
Have we?
I believe we have, yes.
And we have conceded that.
Sure. Her mother said she wasn't.
As far as I'm concerned, yes.
What does your testimony add to what the jury already doesn't know?
We didn't specifically talk about post.
But her mother said that she wasn't scammed and that it wasn't a scam. And her mother, remember, Natalie's mother said that she thought that that Natalie had been scammed. Like, that's what Natalie's mother said. So Sarah, welcome. Like this grew. So that's not his real name. Okay. The lawyer, it's my understanding he's Polish. I don't know that for sure. That's what the chat said the last time I covered this case. And somebody pointed out that he sounded like Gru from Minions, and I can't get it out of my head. He is doing what his client wants. I think Natalie is probably pleased with her defense. When she's asked, are you happy with your defense? She's probably going to say yes. If he was my lawyer, I would be like embarrassed. Like, I think he's embarrassing her right now and making it worse. That's what I personally feel, but those are my I think she's happy with the job he's doing.
Death conduct, and we're talking about her character and the fact that she continued to deceive people following the death of Mr. Cochran, which is a character trait.
Right. And based on that, you were asking the jury not to give her mercy.
No, I don't have an opinion.
I am rendering no opinion in any regard regarding that. I'm just describing her post-death conduct.
So you're just describing that in vacuum. Yes, she's a fraud, right?
She's a fraud, yes.
She's a fraud. Ah, that's all. Thank you.
Anything further, Mr. Truman?
State has no further questions and no further witnesses.
Well, Judge, I'm going to move to strike this entire testimony based on my previously expressed objection and the objection that this testimony has absolutely nothing to do with
Jury already heard it.
this case.
No, I think it does. I think it is relevant as to character. I'm going to overrule the objection. I'll preserve your exception.
Judge, may I have one more?
Especially when her mother said, like, she was scared. Her mother doesn't believe that she did the Ponzi scheme. Her mother doesn't believe that she's a victim, Natalie's mother. So I think this was powerful. That's just
Objection on,
Sure.
on the balance of 401 and 403.
All right.
we're still here. Welcome back.
Upon performing the balance provided by Rule 403 of the Rules of Evidence, the court determines that the probative value outweighs the prejudicial nature of the test.
I think Natalie's family might have left, or at least they're not on camera. I don't see her parents there anymore. I think they left.
Testimony, and the court will allow it to stand.
Yeah.
You may step down, Mr. Huntsman.
I want to see if Natalie's going to make a statement.
You say the state has completed its case, Mr. Truman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that is correct, Your Honor.
All right. Is there rebuttal, Mr. Victor, Mr. Selden?
Your Honor.
Very well.
What can y'all possibly say besides Natalie to say something?
No rebuttal, Your Honor.
All right. Members of the jury, you have heard all the evidence for this penalty phase. I'm going to send you shortly into your jury room so that the attorneys and I can settle on some matters.
I'm very sorry to interrupt you, but we would request a closing argument or
Oh,
statement.
yes, I'm going to afford you a closing argument.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm going to send you into your jury room so that we can.
So they're deciding life with or without the possibility of parole. So, and in West Virginia, they call it mercy or no mercy. So mercy is eligible for parole in 15 years. No mercy is life without the possibility of parole.
Discuss some matters.
I'm gonna do them.
It's unnumbered. It simply is titled Penalty Phase Instruction 3.
So they're going to go over the instructions for the penalty phase. Okay. Court was on break. I think the judge is going to read the instruction. They're going to give closing argument. Maybe Natalie isn't going to talk. Can y'all let me know if anybody's watched this in the chat? Does Natalie say anything? Does she give a statement? I don't think she's going to give a statement. Wow. Wow. Let me know in the chat if anybody knows if she gave a statement or not. Okay, yep. So I don't think she did not talk. Okay. And if I was on the jury, because she never said I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry for my husband's death. Like, even though and now she has the right to not make a statement. So at sentencing, Ashley Benefield, she did not make a statement because she's holding for her appeals. She's never admitted that she was responsible for his death. She does not believe that she was responsible for his death. Anything she said was probably going to dig a deeper hole. It probably wasn't going to be helpful, to be in all honesty. Once again, content creator in me loves chef's kiss when they when it goes downhill. But so I personally would have loved to have seen it. It was probably a good decision on her part to not say anything and to just go off what her friends and family said. Hey, buddy, how are you? Good, good. You need to make your bed and then you can go play. I'll be done here in like 15 minutes maybe or less. Okay?
I couldn't believe you.
I'm home. Yeah. I'm so normally on Thursday I don't telework. So I telework today. Okay? All right. Go make your bed, okay? I love you. Good to see you. My kiddo just got home from school. Okay, yeah. All right. Thank you for letting me parent. And we talked earlier about consequences, and I said when he gets home from school, because he did not make his I asked him to make his bed this morning. He didn't hear me. He forgot something. And so he got home from school and it was like, "All right, go on ahead. You need to make your," and him making his bed because he's 7, it's literally him just spreading out his comforter. Like it's not he's not doing army corners or like it's literally him just spreading out his comforter and making it look pretty on top. And so that's what he's going to go do. My husband is home and so they are going to do homework and all that good stuff. So let's debrief this one real quick. That was a lot. So thank y'all. So it's been 3 hours. Okay. We started with Natalie Cochran's verdict, and the verdict found her guilty of first-degree murder for the death of her husband, Michael Cochran. We then watched the sentencing phase where the defense went first and they presented this evidence or like testimony of her good deeds, how awesome she is, and how they feel she does deserve mercy. Her mom, her dad, her sister, her children, her niece, friends. There were multiple people that spoke on her behalf. And then after lunch, the state presented their witnesses, and it was a former friend of Natalie's who had been defrauded of, I think it was around $17,000. And she's a single mom. I think she was a single mom. I could be wrong. Could be wrong. That might not have been that one, but I think her child was sick. No, because she was married. My brain. She wasn't the single mom. Because that was one of the other people that was and so like there was all of this very strong testimony. I think the one friend that got emotional, he was one of my favorites. Let me find his name. Because Court TV listed out the witnesses. um I believe it was Mr. John Davis. I think it was no, it was the second one. It was Christopher Davis. His testimony was extremely powerful. And I also think the stepfather and the victim's mother, I think all of their testimony was incredibly powerful. And it's going to go to the jury. The jury is going to decide. It might come back tomorrow. It could come back tonight. Make sure to follow Court TV. I know Lawyer Lee is covering this case too. She will likely cover the decision. I'm thinking it's going to be no mercy, but we will see. My issue with possibly giving somebody like this mercy is that I don't know that if she's changed or if she thinks she did anything wrong. The people closest to her don't seem to hold her accountable. And my own personal thoughts watching it, I would be worried, would she do something like this again? And Sarah, great minds think alike. If would something like this happen again? And so I think that's really strong. Trigger warning. I do just want to talk through real quick coping with the tragedy out of Washington, D.C. I am a psychologist here in Virginia. I practice in Northern Virginia. Reagan National Airport is my airport. Like that is my go-to. Reagan and Dulles are my two favorite because I normally take JetBlue out of, because I normally do JetBlue or United, not sponsored. I just have travel points with both of them. And so I normally do one of those two airlines. We got the news last night. My husband came to bed and he was like, "Did you hear?" And I hadn't seen it. I was watching Netflix. That a plane carrying about 60 something people had collided with a military helicopter and a plane had crashed and was in the Potomac, and they were searching for any survivors. To my knowledge, no survivors have been found. And my heart goes out to all of the first responders, to all the families, to all the people that are, to the airport staff, to the, because some people have listened to the radio, because all of that's recorded, and to that air traffic control person, to just the families of everyone involved. There were also members of I heard USA, and then I also heard that there might have been some other countries as well. There were some people coming back from ice skating training out, because the flight was from Kansas to Reagan. And so my heart really, truly, truly, yes, US ice skating team. Yeah. 67. Thank you. My heart truly, truly goes out to every single person. Uh, and as I mentioned, they are recovering bodies from the river, and that is traumatic to everyone involved. Were people that were likely at the airport to pick up their loved one that might have seen it happen, that heard it happen. And so, just for your own mental health, if when things are triggering, you might want to limit how much news you're watching. So, just because I knew I was going to talk about it, I did watch to see what happened one time, but I'm not going to play it on repeat. There's something called secondary trauma. And so just knowing that something like that happened, being exposed to something like that, witnessing, seeing, hearing something like that can bring up major symptoms. And then there's a lot of grief. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot that goes out. I am staying out of the political side of this, and I think as we have to come together in moments like this, and we have to make sure that things like this never ever happen again. That is my goal. Because the helicopter was going from Fort Belvoir, and I don't know where it was going, but people, I don't know, like so I don't know the fix. I'm not in like that's not my area of specialty, but I do think we have to make sure that things like that never, ever, ever happen again. That is a very busy airport. And I haven't looked to see if they've resumed normal operations yet. But if you do have a flight going out of Reagan anytime soon, I would make sure to watch for any updates, because I could see things being on hold while they're still doing the investigation and looking at recovery efforts. I could see flights being diverted to other airports, and so just be mindful, be careful as people are watching for this. And so, um, uh, taking care of yourself, like make sure you're taking care of you. If things are triggering, please turn away. And then I send all the support, love, hearts out to people that are grieving, to people that are having to cope with any anxiety about going to the airport. And for people like that, the tips I give is to breathe. If you have a flight coming up, making sure, I think this is the exception. Like, these things normally don't happen. It definitely is something that can happen. And so that's where just making sure that that we're staying grounded and feeling felt safety. So when I am safe, I want to feel safe. I know it's going to be very, because I do fly in and out of that airport a lot. I've flown into Reagan at night, which is absolutely beautiful. So the Reagan National Airport, you fly by some of the main monuments, like you can see them lit up at night. You can see the river. it is so beautiful to fly in at night, and I just want to hold on to that beauty and then also feel some of that pain for all that happened. And so I thank you all for being here. If you're new here, once again, I'm Dr. Barry. Here I cover the psychological aspects of true crime. And I'm not going live on Saturday. I'm going to spend time with family. So my next live will be on Tuesday. And I think I'm going to cover the case of the teenager that unalived his father. And it was called self defense. But then he did the same thing to his mom. And he's on trial. And I believe his trial has started. And so I do believe I'm going to cover that case in next Tuesday. Let me look, depending on how much there is to cover. Yeah, so it'll be Tuesday about 6 p.m. We will go live and talk about that case. All right. So glad to be here with you all. I hope y'all have a great weekend. Hug the ones you love, be there. I will also be covering the Corey Richins trial when it does start. That is one that I am interested in. And so, yeah, 6 p.m. Eastern. My times are always Eastern. That's where I live. Yes, yes, yes. And please, so replay crew, if you're on replay, it is fine. Okay. So I love the replay crew. Most of my views come from replay. And so hello to the replay crew. I will see y'all next time. Bye.